Here it is on the way, and the Denver Broncos have won it in overtime.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, that's what it sounded like over the weekend as the Denver Broncos did indeed defeat the Buffalo Bills. Our guy Donny is hurting today, man.
Oh, man, I walked past his studio in the point when I got here, and it wasn't in there, and I'm like, oh, no. And then, my second thought was he was in our office, and he was letting it out for T-Bone.
I felt bad for him.
Do you feel like a good therapist there, T-Bone? I feel like you improved Donnie's day by the time he walked out.
Well, I didn't tell him at first that their GM, who he's not a fan of, right? Because the roster's not well built together.
Why.
I said, well, didn't your GM just get promoted after the Sean McDermott news? He goes, no, he didn't get promoted. I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe I had it wrong. And then I thought with myself, no, I think I do have it right. But I didn't have the guts to tell him. and then he discovered it later, and then he came in the office and really felt bad.
So the Bills lose. Their season is done. They fire their coach today. Promote their GM. Congratulations. Good gig if you can go ahead and go out there and get it.
Yeah.
We're in a new window in the NFL, boys. We are seeing once again the rise of the rookie quarterback contract. That's what we witnessed over this weekend. You think about it. Lamar Jackson making big money, did not make it to the playoffs this year. Patrick Mahomes making big money, did not make it to the playoffs this year. For a really long time in the NFL, after the rookie wage scale was implemented in the early 2010s, we saw the rise of the teams that were able to construct these super teams around the quarterbacks on the rookie deal. Think about the Seahawks. This is how they were able to construct that defense. They go to free agency and they get a bunch of talent. They draft and develop from within as well, and they build around them with Russell Wilson in place. When you look back over the decade or so, from like 2012 to 2018, that's really what we saw. Hell, all the way through Mahomes in his rookie deal. That's what the Chiefs were able to do. They maximized his rookie contract. And now we're seeing that cycle start up once again. The Broncos have done this with Bo Nix as their starting quarterback. The Texans have kind of done this with C.J. Stroud as their starter. The Patriots this offseason spent, I think it was $350 million to improve their roster around Drake May, and they are now in the AFC Championship game as a result of that. Now, the Seahawks went about it slightly differently. They've got a veteran quarterback, but he's not making big money the way that some of these other guys are. And the Rams nearly fell victim to this as well, probably should have, with Caleb Williams, who is also on a rookie deal. We are seeing, I don't know if it's a changing of the guard, but definitely a new window in the NFL, Alex, where we are seeing fresh blood start to emerge with some of these quarterbacks that are on rookie deals stepping into a more prominent role in the NFL, and this weekend was the start of that.
Yeah, and, I know the Bears' outcome didn't go in the direction of what we're talking, but that to me was the perfect example of it. And again, I know they lose, but that was a game to where I think going into the season, nobody expected the Bears to be this good. I mean, I, for one, was just ishing on Caleb Williams every chance I could get. But what did they do around Caleb Williams? They upgraded the offensive line. They went out there and got more weapons for him to throw to. And I know their defense wasn't good, but at times this season, their defense had improved. So you took a Bears team that I think a lot of people looked at as this one's going to take a little bit more. Caleb Williams isn't there yet. Ben Johnson's first year as head coach. And then all of a sudden, boom, you get a young quarterback with a roster around him, and look at where you went. The Texans are another really good example, and I know they lost as well, but still, that defense resembles what the Seattle Seahawks did. It's just their quarterback couldn't make the plays, which was very infuriating in itself. And the Denver Broncos, you mentioned, they spent a lot of time assembling that defense, and then when they felt like they were ready to make the push, they get the quarterback, they give him a little bit of time, you get the right head coach, and you can mesh that thing together. So I, for one, and I said this at the beginning of the postseason when the Chiefs weren't in it and the Ravens weren't in it and the Bengals weren't in it. I like it. I like it when there's new blood in the playoffs because it's a little bit more entertaining. Now, some of those games are not entertaining to watch. Looking at you, Texans.
Overall, though, pretty good playoffs so far.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just Texans, you kind of ruined it for me. Not a lot of fun.
Both of their games have been less than fun to watch.
Even the defense is like, this isn't even fun because I know what's coming out on the field when you get the stop. But I like new blood because now it sets up for better storylines. One, the rest of this postseason, but then going into next year, when Mahomes is back, when Allen is fresh, now you've got that new fresh blood to look at.
I think you're seeing as well, like, it's really hard to stack talent on these teams when you're drafting at the back end of the first round every year. I think it's caught up to the Ravens. You look around that team, who are the elite level players on that roster outside of Lamar Jackson and maybe you could argue Kyle Hamilton
and then who's
safety.
Matabuke?
He didn't play this year.
Well, he was hurt this year. But, I mean, I think when healthy, that's an elite pass rusher.
Sure, but didn't play this year, so it's really two guys on the roster.
And I think to that point, look at the Bills this year, right?
Sure.
They've been drafting. Who's the elite guy on offense outside of James Cook?
Dalvin Cook. That's it.
Yeah.
James.
Did I say Dalvin?
Yeah.
He used to be good.
Yeah, I was going to say, he was elite at times.
Yeah, they're lacking blue chip talent on both of those rosters. And the Chiefs, it's the same thing. You look across the roster, they've got some really good players. Who are the elite talents outside of Patrick Mahomes and I guess Trent McDuffie? Like that's the other guy. Chris Jones, who's getting a little bit older now and has been on the team for a decade. It's hard to sustain that level of winning. Meanwhile, you look at these teams that remain playing right now. Dude, they've got blue chippers all over. I mean, we can have our issues, our qualms with some of the individual sides of like the Seahawks, for example. Not great on the offensive side of the ball, but that defense, blue chippers all over the place, and extremely well coached. They do some things so incredibly well on that side of the football. The Denver Broncos, they got some legit blue chippers on that defensive side of the ball. That's the difference to me right now. And you're able to continue not only adding those players via the draft, but also paying them once they hit free agency while you have your quarterback on that rookie level deal. I think the reason why this kind of got away from us for a while is because so many of the rookie quarterbacks were just terrible. Like they just whiffed on the young quarterbacks in the league, and these guys are good. I will give full credit to Bo Nix. He was awesome this weekend, guys. Now, it sucks. He's not going to play in the AFC Championship game. Sounds as though he's going to miss the rest of the postseason with a fractured ankle, which he was walking around on after the game, doing the interviews and whatnot. That's crazy. But he deserves all the kudos in the world for the way that he performed this weekend. He was the better quarterback in that game.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying that. I did not expect it, but he was better than Josh Allen. And it's time we have a conversation about Josh Allen, ladies and gentlemen. I love the guy. I think he's amazing. He gets too amped up in these games. He can't help himself. That fumble that he had prior to the half, I don't think it's being discussed enough because the play that everybody's talking about is the interception that either was or wasn't, depending on your point of view. I think they called it correct. I hated the way that they went about it. The fumble he had prior to the half that he handed the Broncos 3 points, that right then and there is, I mean, that's an example of Josh Allen trying to do too much. Dude, secure the football. Nothing good can happen by you holding it out here with 15 seconds to go prior to the half.
That I agree with. That was terrible ball security, but I also can't you blame the coach for that too? That's a bad decision to go for it.
No, why would I blame the decision?
Punt the football. You're in prime real estate. If you don't score that first down, you don't want to give them 3 points. Even the broadcasters were like, what are we doing here? Kick the football, punt it away, end the half where you were only down by 7 points. And I know it didn't matter because they pulled themselves back into the fight in the second half. I thought that was bad coaching decision to go for it there.
Oh, I had no issue. 20 seconds left to go-ish there before the half. You're at your 30-yard line. See what you can do. See what happens. And if nothing happens on first down, then you probably take a knee or you just let the clock run out. A lot of coaches do this, where you're down by 7. Let's see what we can do here, find out what that if something breaks open. I mean, he had a great run there. He ended up getting to, what was it, the 45? So if he just goes down and instead of fumbling, you have another opportunity after that play, you've got like 10 seconds to go, needing 15 yards to kick a field goal prior to the end of the half. So it worked. Their idea there was successful, and their quarterback screwed it up. And this was the case for them really all day long. Just too many turnovers. And this was my theme of the weekend for some of these quarterbacks. Caleb Williams just trying to do too much. CJ Stroud, I don't know what he was doing. He should have been benched yesterday. He did not give them the best chance to win. They should have gone to their backup quarterback. And you know how much I love CJ Stroud, Alex. But this season he has not been good. He was the worst quarterback in the AFC South and the second best quarterback on his own team. They needed to go to somebody that would give them a better chance to win yesterday, and they did not do that. These quarterbacks, many of them talented, tried to do too much yesterday. tried to do way too much over the weekend.
And to your point on Josh Allen, the part that's frustrating about it when watching Josh had kind of gotten better at limiting that, right? He kind of early on in the career did a lot of what we've criticized Lamar for and what he did yesterday, or Saturday, I guess I should say, where it is, hey, trying to do too much, the fumble or the turnovers that we've seen where he throws interceptions or takes big sacks. He did that early on in his career as well. And he had kind of cut down on that, right? It's what kept them in a bunch of the games against the Chiefs over the last couple of years. And then I think he just felt too much pressure knowing hey, this is the year for me, right? I have to be able to take advantage of this because there is no Mahomes, there is no Lamar, there is no Joe Burrow in these playoffs. And then he goes out there and turns the football over too many times. And that was the theme of the weekend for me. The better quarterback was the one that typically walked out victorious outside the Rams game.
The one that played better, even if they're not overall the better player.
Stafford did not play well. Caleb Williams was better than him, and the Rams somehow found a way to win. That was the only football game that really occurred in this weekend. Sam Darnold, he really didn't have to do anything, but he was still better than Brock Purdy, I think, in that contest. You look at the Texans. You mentioned it with C.J. Stroud. Dude, just too many turnovers. What are we doing? Like, that was the theme of the weekend. It was the theme of the first weekend as well in the playoffs, man. Your quarterback cannot be the reason why you lose these football games. They don't have to be excellent. They just can't make costly mistakes.
So much of playoff football is about, can you just maintain possession? Can you just not make the critical mistake? And for the Bills, they made way too many of them. For the 49ers, I mean, it started out with a kickoff return touchdown for the for the Seattle Seahawks. For the Texans, I think it was 7 interceptions plus fumbles over the course of that entire game. And then last night for the Bears, it was the interception that Caleb Williams threw in overtime that ultimately lost that thing for them. I thought he played a really good game. I know the numbers will not look great for him, but watching that game, I thought he played really well. Can we real quick, T-Bone, before we get out of here, play this play-by-play? It's from my favorite guy that you don't like that much. Kevin Harlan was on the call yesterday for Westwood One as Caleb Williams made what should have gone down as the play of the postseason. Take a listen.
4th down and 4, 14 of the Rams. Shotgun snap, goes back 4-man rush. He's chased, he's rushed, he's all the way back to the 40. He's backpedaling and throws a pass into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! Touchdown! Chicago has caught a touchdown pass. With Cole Kmet open in the corner. If you hadn't seen it, you would not believe it.
What a call.
It's one of the best plays I've ever seen, Alex. And it's coming off of the back of last week when Caleb Williams made one of the best throws I've ever seen. The only thing that I can compare what we saw this postseason from Caleb Williams to is 2019 Patrick Mahomes. And this is a statement for the entire NFL. Watch out, I'm coming. That's what we saw this postseason. If you're a Bears fan today and you're listening to our show, you should be thrilled about what's coming because your team's going to get to a Super Bowl. This guy's too good not to. And your coach is too good not to. You've got everything in place that you need. Now it's about putting together the finishing touches because you've got the rookie quarterback contract in place right now. You've got the coach. You've got a few weapons that you like. Luther Burden was awesome this postseason. You've got a running game that you can trust. It's all there. Put a few assets into that defense. This team is coming, man. If you're the Rams, watch out. If you're the Packers, watch out. If you're the Lions, your time is done because they've got the dude that imposes all of the fear in the world in you in the postseason. That guy is special. And it's the first time that I've seen a quarterback that's young remind me of Mahomes since Mahomes. He has that level of play, and he raises his game at the end of these games. When it matters the most, Caleb Williams showed up. I could not have been more impressed with his performance yesterday, Alex.
Yeah, I'd like to spend some time apologizing to Caleb Williams and his entire family for the mean things that I had said about him, because that play, I was in the middle of intermission and audibly went, oh, in the middle of doing intermission last night, because Grant and I had it up on the screen. And, I don't know how he made that throw, because he had like 5 guys just running him down. And not only did he get the ball, that was a 40-plus yard throw, but he got it right into the hands of the receiver. I mean, it was
was not a prayer. No. That was to Cole Kmet. He saw him in the back of the end zone coming uncovered. He bought himself the amount of time that was necessary in order to find Cole Kmet. If this was the first time we had ever seen him make a play like that, maybe like we're seeing on the text line right now, people that are saying it was pure luck, I could buy into it. That was not luck. That was him doing exactly what he wanted to and manipulating the defense to his will. That guy.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah,
Special.
I thought the Rams had won the football game when we had 3 linemen running after him. And then when he threw it in the air, I went, okay, surely, like, I figured he was throwing it to somebody like he did where he was going to command. I thought for sure someone defensively would, I don't know, go up for the ball and not, like, run underneath it and miss completely. I thought there had to be a push-off on that play.
There wasn't, too. They showed the replay, and everyone's, like, screaming for pass interference. I'm like, he didn't do anything.
He looked like an outfielder that runs in and goes, oh, crap, the ball went over my head.
Yeah, both guys were watching the ball.
I couldn't believe it. And the other part, too, like, I know he had the turnover, which was so costly in overtime. That was really the only big mistake that he made in that game.
Because the other interception was on DJ Moore. He stopped on his route.
Yeah, and that's where, like, I look at this and go, man, because, like, I could understand some people would argue, like, hey, maybe, okay, I get it. Yeah, he's got all this talent, but is he going to play like Allen or Lamar when he gets to the playoffs? And I'm thinking, man, he's only going to get smarter, I think, as he continues to grow, especially with Ben Johnson, which, okay, was anybody else surprised Ben Johnson, by the way? Didn't go for 2 to try and win the football game.
Shocked.
I thought for sure.
It was the wrong decision.
I told Grant the moment I said, you go for 2 here.
I thought for sure he was going to do it because
Would you have done it?
I would not have because they had all the momentum going into overtime.
Oh man, I would have.
The entire Ram sideline was in shock. You had that 100%. Defense by the cojones. You go for it. The moment they score, it's like, let's go 2 right now.
So the one reason I wouldn't, and I think it played out this way, is because if you go for 2 there and you get it, it incentivizes the Rams. They've got to go. And they've got the dudes that could potentially get down the field. Because really, especially if you get a touchback there, they only have to get 20 yards with their kicker, the thicker kicker, who came through yesterday, by the way, MIZ. They only have to get 20 yards to get into field goal range and then potentially win the game.
Yeah.
So if there was like 7 seconds left, I think it's a no-brainer. You got to do it. But with 18, you start to get into that mode of it's a real decision there. I personally would have leaned in the direction.
I would have given them that shot to try it. It's like 18 seconds. Let's see if you can drive down the field. It's cold. It's windy. I don't trust you can do it. Stafford looked like he was broken a little bit at that point.
His finger's clearly not right.
Yeah. I absolutely would have gone for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have because you had all the momentum, and I would rather just say, okay, let's go into overtime. And because their defense had been playing super well against the Rams, and they were good in overtime, too, to their credit. Mm-hmm. The other thing, too, the Rams had basically it was 50-50 on what they have done on 3rd and short or 4th and short, which basically is what that would have been on a 2-point play. We saw the Rams really stuff them on short downs. That's why I just wouldn't have gone for it. I like the decision to kick the PAT, but I was shocked that he decided not to do it.
Okay, so one other thing on this game real quick. Sean McVay was outcoached by Ben Johnson in that game.
Oh, McVay! I think McVay admitted it at postgame, too.
McVay was really bad yesterday. Really bad. Got away from the run in the first half. Don't see any reason why he did that. Just like, it doesn't make sense to me. You had a quarterback that was hurt, a running game going up against a defense that doesn't stop the run very well, that was effective when they stuck with the running game. Did not get Blake Corum involved really at all, which was weird. That part of it, just the game plan, was strange to me. And then you get into the second half, 2 minutes left to go into the game, and I thought this was the biggest, most critical error by Sean McVay in the game. The Bears gifted the Rams an opportunity with a little more than 2 minutes to go to throw the football. There was a situation where the Bears decided not to call their timeouts before the 2-minute warning. They only called 1 instead of the 2. So with 2:07 to go, they call their second timeout. It's 3rd down and 10 for the Rams. Because the Bears called that timeout with 2:07 to go, there's no incentive for the Rams to run there. You should be throwing because there's no real downside to doing so. You're going to get that 2-minute warning, and the Bears are going to have one more timeout to go when they get the ball, either way. So you throw there to give yourself a chance to potentially, get the first down. And if you get the first down, you effectively win the football game. Mm-hmm. Game's over. You put it on ice. And instead, they run it. They get 3 yards, have to punt on the next down, and gave the Bears the opportunity to go down and score that touchdown. I thought it was a huge unforced error by Sean McVay yesterday in a game in which he just did not coach a good game. McVay is a great coach. He had a bad day yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't fully understand his game plan with the running backs. I totally agree with that, especially because as that game went along, you could tell, like you mentioned earlier, Stafford's finger wasn't right. You could tell balls were starting to sail on him. So, I didn't understand why he kept going with him. And then I wonder if that's what ultimately ended up playing in his decision on third down there. Hey, I don't trust Stafford. Not that I don't trust Stafford. Stafford's fingers clearly compromised because as that game went along, by the time they got to that fourth quarter, he started to run the ball a little bit more. I wonder if he then thought, okay, I don't want to have a chance of an airmailing pass that sails high and we give up great field position, we throw a pick. Ultimately didn't matter because they ended up scoring anyways, even though they punted. But yeah, I was kind of with you. I didn't understand, especially McVay, who's been more aggressive this year, his unwillingness to go to a throw there on 3rd and 10.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. You can check us out on YouTube as well at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. Harrison's brother Master coming in saying, hey guys, we don't have an NFL team. We do, however, have an NHL team who's viewed by many as the most disappointing in the league. Let's talk about them and how to fix them. We'll talk about their goaltender coming up next here on 101 ESPN. Alex, I hope people took advantage of the quarterback gimme pick over the weekend over on the Underdog app. If you didn't, maybe check out your app today. You might be able to get one of the promo boosts, the profit boosts that are over there available for you on tonight's national championship game. That is exactly what I'm doing. I've got a 40% profit boost on the Underdog app, so I put a $5 entry down, earn myself about 12-1 odds by going with Fletcher higher on his touchdowns. Kalen Black touchdown tonight as well. I've got Ruben Bain to get a sack for Miami, and Carson Beck to go lower than 201 passing yards against Indiana. That's all tonight. National championship game on the Underdog app.
BK just showed you how easy it is to use. You pick your favorite player, favorite stat, go higher or lower. If you get your entries right, you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. So what are you waiting for? Download the Underdog app today. Use promo code BKO to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO. Underdog, make plays, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Jordan Binnington okay? Has anybody checked on him?
Yeah, he was there last night.
Yeah.
Seems like he's fine.
He was.
Doesn't.
I mean, he was in the net.
Oh, come on. Stop it.
I can tell you guys are going to yell at each other. Hold on.
I'm not going to yell. I took my medicine this morning.
right, I'm
not
ready.
going to yell.
I'm ready.
I yelled last night on postgame, too. So
Did you?
I got it out of the way.
What happened?
Because people were saying what you're about to say.
What'd they say?
Jordan Binnington lost the game last night. Gave up 5 goals again.
Oh, he wasn't alone. I mean, the
We didn't
Blues
score.
Oh, he was. No. Let me correct you. He was alone. Nobody was ready to play in front of him.
I agree with that. And if we're looking at just last night's game, it's not all on Binnington at all.
Okay.
But it's
That's
a theme.
good start.
It's a theme. When Binnington's in net, the Blues don't have a chance more often than not. Binnington in his last 13 starts, Alex, has an .858 save percentage. Mm-hmm. That's unacceptable. And I understand the team in front of him has often not been good enough. And that's fair. That is a legitimate criticism of the Blues. But he also has not been good enough. And when they have a different goalie in net with Joel Hofer, they're better. Whether it's they play better in front of Joel Hofer or he allows them to play a certain kind of way, or they feel as though they have to be less perfect when he's out there, whatever the case, whatever the explanation, one of them has been an above league average goalie over the last 2 months. The other one has been arguably the worst goalie in the NHL over the last 2 months. What do you see that is playing into Jordan Binnington's struggles? This is dating back all the way to basically Thanksgiving.
Yeah, he's got 2 wins since December 1st. So, I mean, what you're saying is not incorrect. And I said this on postgame last night. He has been bad. But, I mean, watching that game last night and compare it to the 2 games against Carolina and Tampa, and you cannot tell me that that is the same team in front of the goaltender.
I mean, it is. They wear the same blue nose jerseys.
It's the same players. That's fine. It is not the same play in front of the goaltender.
But why? Why are they so much better in front of Hofer than they are in front of Binnington?
Dude, that's the one I don't have an answer for. Sometimes it's because you're overcompensating, because you as a player assume your goaltender doesn't have it, so you're trying to make certain plays. You're being overly aggressive. But, man, they weren't even being overly aggressive last night. And this was the part that I started to get frustrated with at people because they were saying I'm defending Binnington. I'm not defending Binnington. I can go through and list you 5 games that he was not good in. Chicago, when he gave up 8 goals and he was pulled. I think he gave 10. Up. What's that? Shut up, man. Just shut up. Detroit, where he coughed up those goals where they led 4-0. He got yanked earlier when he played against Boston. Like, there have been plenty of games this season to where he has not been the guy that the Blues have needed. Last night was not it. I don't know what the answer is, though. The bigger problem is Binnington is, I don't want to say broken. Binnington's in his own head. And I said this in pregame. I don't think you should have started Binnington in that game. I think the head games have been playing with this Blues team all season long, not getting 3 in a row. You should have played Joel Hofer last night. But Jordan Binnington isn't right. He has not made the saves. I think it's probably because the team just doesn't trust him. This feels a lot like what it was with Ville Husso a while back. You know what I'm going with.
He took the job from Jordan Binnington.
It also feels like what happened with Joel Hofer a couple of years ago. Do you remember the narrative that the first shot on goal was going in, and then everybody just kind of started to play tight? I think that's what the problem is. Guys are just not playing themselves in front of Jordan Binnington rather than Joel Hofer. And some of that is because the goaltender makes the initial save. But, man, that game last night, to me, I'll look at that game individually and say your team wasn't ready to play again. Your team basically watched the Edmonton Oilers dance around you and didn't play hard in front of the net.
There are 51 goalies in the NHL that have played at least 10 games since November 26th. So, again, basically since Thanksgiving. Where do you think Jordan Binnington ranks among those 51 goalies in save percentage since November 26th?
Oh, it's got to be down there at the bottom, if not the bottom.
I'll say he's not last, but I'll say 50th.
49th.
Oh, dang.
Where do you think Joel Hofer ranks in save percentage since November 26th?
Got to be top 10.
Yeah,
I think he had the 4th best since December 1st.
I'll go 5th.
First.
Dang.
That's not just team in front of you. I'm sorry, man. When one of you is first in the league and the other is third worst in the league, and this is no longer a small sample size, Hofer has appeared in 15 games and Jordan Binnington has appeared in 13 games, I have to level some amount of criticism to the goalie. And I think at this point it is fair to say he is not good enough right now. Now, I don't know what that means, big picture, because, like, I can levy the criticism, and then what? Like, you don't play him? You never go back to Jordan Binnington? No, of course not. Like, you have to play him. He needs to get some opportunities here, and I would say last night it was the right decision to go to Jordan Binnington. Now, it didn't work, but you've got to play him. And prior to that, Hofer had played in 3 of the previous 4 games. He had started in 3 of the previous 4 games. It wasn't as if he had a shutout against Tampa Bay. He was good against them, I think, overall, but it wasn't a shutout. So I would have gone back to Binnington there. I'd go back to Joel Hofer tomorrow night. I think that was probably the plan for them. And then you've got a back-to-back coming up, so you're going to play Hofer in one. You'll go back to Binnington in the other, and then keep going about it this way. But, yeah, it's 2 out of every 3. You need Binnington to get back on track. When is that going to happen? I don't know. But it'd be real nice if he shows some level of improvement sooner rather than later. And I do think it's fair to say, like, this is not just the team in front of him, man. This is also on him. He's got to make the saves.
And I am no way, shape, or form saying this is all on the team in front of him. But to me, if we're going to use a blame pie, 50% goes to the team in front of him. You don't allow a guy to stand in front of the net to just get deflections.
Agreed.
You don't let a guy go through the middle of the ice in the defensive zone for a one-timer right into the back of the net. That's poor play. And if I watch the same game with the same team that has the same jersey on that you're saying against Tampa and Carolina versus Edmonton, those were not the same teams.
But why? This is
That's
what I don't understand.
And I think my only assumption is guys are overcompensating because they are concerned about Binnington.
And that's a poor reflection of Binner.
It absolutely is. There have been games that people they don't trust Binnington the same way they trust Joel Hofer. And that's where you're right. Like, Binnington has had a lot of issues this season to where they don't trust him in front. But it's also why every time he takes the net, I think the team just goes into a little fetal position and doesn't know how to handle it. So that's why I thought it was the wrong decision to play Binnington against Edmonton.
But you know what helps that, Alex? Sorry to interrupt, but you know what helps the team start to feel more confidence is for Binnington to make one of those saves that we've seen him make in the past, where it's a surprise.
I mean, he did it against Montreal when he got a shutout a few nights ago.
Absolutely, but that's one time. And when you see a game like this against Edmonton, where you're down basically the moment that the puck is dropped, and we've seen this how many times with him in net, where, like, at home, if you're at home or if you're going to the game, before you even get down to your seat, the Blues are down 2-0 with that guy in net. If you're one of his teammates, you've got to immediately be thinking, we better be perfect because Binnington's just not on his game tonight. And that's happened far too often.
I think that's part of the problem when the guys think they have to be perfect and then they start making those blatant mistakes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have played him against Edmonton. I think you need the team to start getting a little bit of juice, and they have had 5 opportunities to win 3 in a row this season, and they've lost every single one of them. And that's why if Joel Hofer's playing this well, and Joey's right, like, he saw a lot of work against the Tampa Bay Lightning, so that's probably why they didn't start him there. And you're right, you got to play Binnington, and at some point you put him in. I think because it seems like it's an enigma this season of this team trying to get to 3 in a row, I would have played Hofer against Edmonton and Binnington against Winnipeg. But regardless, the team showcased their problem, whether it's Binnington or the team in front of them. They solidified what we already know. This team is inconsistent as all heck, and they proved it against Edmonton once again.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone on BK. Coming up later today, we'll discuss the Steve Ott situation. He's going to take over as the AHL head coach for the St. Louis Blues. What went into that decision? Why was it made right now? We'll ask Alex for his insight into that coming up later in the show today. Coming up in 15 minutes, questions and answers, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get any of your questions in. But next, what was the biggest takeaway from Cardinals winter warm-up over the weekend? I was in attendance all weekend long. T-Bone was there yesterday as well. We'll tell you what we took from it next here on 101 ESPN.
Hey, football fans, picture this. You bet on your favorite player to score the first touchdown in the game, but his teammate scores instead. If this happens, BetMGM wants to give you another chance at the end zone. With BetMGM's second chance promotion, you'll get your stake back if your first touchdown scorer scores second instead. That's right. Bet on any pro football player to score the first touchdown of the game. If you're right, you win. If your player scores second, you get your stake back in cash. With BetMGM's second chance offer, you have a chance to keep the fun going after the first player crosses the goal line. Try a first touchdown scorer wager with confidence today. BetMGM. Make it legendary. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. Missouri only. New and existing customer offer. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards paid back in unrestricted withdrawable funds. Please gamble responsibly.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Blues fell to the Oilers last night 5-0. They'll be back in action tomorrow night when they visit the Winnipeg Jets. We'll have pregame coverage tomorrow starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And the Blues also made a couple moves today as well as they relieved the AHL Springfield Thunderbirds head coach Steve Konowalchuk of his duty. Steve Ott will take over as the acting head coach. And tonight here on 101 ESPN, we've got the college football championship for you between Indiana and Miami. Pre-game coverage starts at 5:30 with kickoff at 6:30. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, I was out at Cardinals winter warm-up over the weekend. Pretty decent attendance, all things considered. I wasn't sure what to anticipate given the new direction of the organization, the fact that there are not Hall of Fame level players, frankly, in attendance this time around compared to what has been the case in years past. So, credit to all of you Cardinals fans that made your way out there in what was a very cold weekend, as is always the case.
Every year.
And a lack of real juice surrounding the event compared to years past. T-Bone, I'll start out with you because, Alex, you had a bunch of Blue stuff going on over the weekend. We were both in attendance yesterday. Tanner, I was there on Saturday as well. What was your biggest takeaway from the weekend as you were in attendance at Cardinals winter warm-up?
Yeah, I didn't think there was much yesterday. There was some interesting stuff from the starting pitching. I mentioned this to you guys. Michael McGreevy, I'm trying to think who the other right-handers were. Kyle Leahy and Andre Palante were there, and they were mentioning stuff about, hey, we're all working on change-ups this offseason. I went, well, that's kind of interesting. Like, why is everybody supposedly working on a change-up this offseason? I think that's because right-handed starters for the St. Louis Cardinals were sixth worst, in batting average against lefties and sixth worst in slugging percentage against lefties this past season. So I think that's just trying to neutralize lefties. But my biggest takeaway came from the Saturday stuff, and it is, including ownership, who talked a little bit about this. Boy, I don't know about Ollie Marmol getting a contract extension. That was one of the biggest takeaways for me over the weekend because no one seems to really want to say, yeah, we're kind of not negotiating it as well. Ollie said, hey, look, we've had conversations, but you can talk to Heim. And Heim says, yeah, well, we've had conversations, and we'll see where things go. And ownership was like, yeah, we like Ollie as a coach. We'll just kind of see where things go.
And then said, refer back to what Heim said.
Heim said as well.
That's a cycle.
It doesn't sound like Ollie Marmol is going to be getting a contract extension. And I think that was the biggest takeaway from me over the weekend, because otherwise it was a lot of the same stuff I think we've heard about the rebuild, right? Like we've seen Heim, he kind of mentioned a lot of the same stuff, and he talked a little bit about like the market for Donovan and stuff like that. But that was the single biggest takeaway for me. I don't think Ollie Marmol's getting a contract extension going into spring training.
My biggest takeaway is what you just said. You spoke incorrectly. It's not a rebuild.
Oh,
the DeWitts are not labeling it a rebuild. They're calling it a build. I mean, look, I said last week that it's a refreshing feeling watching what the Blues are doing.
Cardinals.
What did I say?
Blues.
Sorry.
It's not refreshing watching
It also might be a rebuild, too. So kind of all the same thing. Now we can just throw them in a basket together. It was refreshing seeing what they've done. That took all the freshness away. That felt like somebody put a dead fish under my car seat and didn't tell me, because hearing Bill DeWitt Jr. say, well, that's not a rebuild. This is a build. What does that even mean? You once again are living in denial where you're at, just like you're living in denial of, well, we've always been a draft and develop organization. And then hearing him saying that, the transitions in process of Bill DeWitt III taking over the ownership and another Bill DeWitt stepping in, a little concerned of what the future is going to look like for Cardinals. I don't think this is going to be a big spending team. They've never been a top selling team or top spending team, but they're not going to be what I grew up watching of the Cardinals being like, yeah, we'll take that player on.
Yeah, I thought hearing the DeWitts yesterday speak was interesting because it felt very similar to what it has previously. Because, I mean, you can tell the carryover versus the new guys. And when you hear Chaim Bloom speak, it is very refreshing. I agree with you, Alex. There's candor behind what he is saying. There is a clear message in what he's trying to get across. And the actions have supported the words that he says. Now, sometimes I hear some of the things that Chaim's saying up there, and I'm thinking to myself, like, did he actually say anything? And this is not a criticism necessarily, but like, he sounds good. You feel good listening to it, and then you look at the transcripts, like you take away any of the tone, good or bad, and you just look at what's actually on the transcript. You're like, man, I don't really know if I learned anything with this answer other than like it made me feel good as he was talking.
Like CEO in a company, essentially.
Again, not a bad thing inherently, but I do think there was some of that on Saturday for sure. That's what you get when people in those positions of prominence speak sometimes. But then the DeWitt spoke yesterday, and more specifically, Bill DeWitt Jr. spoke yesterday, and I was like, man, this feels very much like it has the last 5 years, where he's unwilling to accept. And it wasn't even, I don't need him to say the word rebuilds to know what's going on here. But when a reporter says, you guys are entering a rebuild, and he corrects him unprompted and says, no, I wouldn't call it a rebuild. This is more of a build.
What does that even mean?
What? Why?
Did anybody ask the follow-up? Like, what does that mean?
He
Bill?
brought up that the Cardinals are the #1 farm system in baseball as ranked by Baseball America. No, they're not. They're the most improved system in baseball, which you'd expect based upon the fact that they've had a fire sale this offseason and have really basically spent 2 out of the last 3 years in doing this, sending off of their best assets to other teams. So, yeah, they should be a highly improved system, which is indeed the case. They're not #1 in Major League Baseball, and I don't know, like, that's just factually inaccurate. So there was some stuff yesterday that rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. My biggest takeaway was how excited everybody seems to be about Victor Scott II. Now, I'm not telling you have to buy into it. Last year, the big topic of conversation was, man, it's going to click this time around with Jordan Walker. T-Bone fell for it.
Yeah. Oh, he said he's getting back to his old swing with Grant Brown, which then Victor said it on the podium yesterday. Yeah, who's the guy you're excited for? Well, I'm excited for Jordan Walker because he says he getting back to his old swing. Oh, no. Oh, no.
And they also
I've heard that before.
About Dakota Hudson developing new pitches.
Yeah, that was one as well.
He was going to be an ace.
You always have to have a healthy amount of skepticism when you're hearing about players in the offseason that have made sweeping changes that are clearly going to pay off in the following season. Sometimes it works. A lot of the time it doesn't. Like last year, we talked to Alec Burleson. He's like, I think I found something. I figured something out. And guess what? It worked for him. So we don't just bring up the stuff when it fails. Sometimes it does actually end up coming to fruition. Matthew Liberatore talked about how he changed his strength program last offseason to allow him to maintain velo and to come into spring as a starter. Guess what? It worked for him. Will it work for Victor Scott II? I have no idea. I'm interested in seeing it, though, because the ceiling for him remains pretty high. And I'm not telling you he's going to be like a 20 home run player. I thought it was interesting yesterday. He flat out said, I'm not a home run hitter. Mason Wynn, I'm not a home run hitter. That's not the way that I'm going to be able to have success at this level. And I think that amount of self-awareness is good for young players to figure out, all right, this is how I win at the major league level, and I think you're starting to see that. But Scott went to West Virginia. He had some amount of biomechanic testing done on him. He's called, I think it was like force plate testing, and there was one other thing that he decided to do as well. And he found out, hey, I'm not moving the way that my body should. I'm not moving efficiently. So how can I get myself into a more athletic position to be ready to hit? He says he's found that, and it's comfortable for him, and he's seeing some success with it. We'll see. We'll see how it pays off. He also said he's been working on bunting every single day this offseason, which I honestly think is a really big deal, and I think that's good for him. He was not good at it in the past, but he is somebody that could be a weapon if he figures out how to bunt at the major league level. Easier said than done. But for me, that was the biggest takeaway as well, along with everything that you guys said, was Victor Scott II seemed to be the player that got the most buzz, unprompted, from Ollie Marmol, from other players, saying this is a guy that we're very excited to see.
I'm a little disappointed in you.
Why is that?
Because your biggest takeaway wasn't what it should have been.
Well, what should my biggest takeaway
you asked
been?
the question at Ballpark Village about the Cardinals re-signing Harrison Bader.
I did not. A fan.
You asked that question, and you tried to put it off on a fan. It's a little weird how there was no video of the fan asking that question.
Oh, that is true. I didn't
Right?
even think of that. Yeah.
Right?
Did you pose as a fan?
You had
Did you
to have
take
been
off your glasses there? Hi, I am Brad.
My name is
Brad Kelly.
My name is not Brandon Kiley. It's Brad Kelly, and I'd just like to know if you're considering Harrison Bader to come back.
Thought it was a great question.
Of
Second
course
of all,
you did.
Heim didn't dismiss the idea. Third of all, I think he would be a good addition, and we can just leave it at that.
You did
Questions and answers
elbow the
coming up
next
next.
guy. Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends over at Classic Air Care. You've probably been handling your HVAC system over these last few days and cranking up the heat because it's gotten so cold outside. And if you've got an older unit, then you know some of those weird noises pop up. Maybe some issues happen, and you're like, what am I going to do? That's where Classic Air Care comes into play. Their incredible customer service, the knowledge of their technicians, a company that has been making people comfortable since 1926. I've been using them since 2016. Let me tell you, they managed a unit in my first home that was about 27 years old and got me through the next 4 years that we lived there. And then the new home that we lived in, it was an older unit as well, about 23 years old, and they managed that until we finally had to buy a new one. All of that is because of Classic Air Care. I'm a part of their maintenance agreement to where twice a year in the springtime and in the fall, they come out, they fine-tune it, clean the unit, walk me through everything that I can be doing to make sure I maintain that older unit. And then when issues pop up, you get priority scheduling for them to come out. And they've got 100 vans out on the road. You've seen them before, those orange vans with the penguins on the side. That means they'll get back to you within 24 hours, and they've got people there 7 days a week, and they've got after-hour technicians. So call them today, schedule online, check out that maintenance agreement, and do me a favor and tell them Alex Ferrario sent you. That's Classic Air Care and ClassicAirCare.com.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. From Cottleville Comb-Over. Guys, I hate the Rams, but I love the thicker kicker. How do I handle this?
You should just love the Rams.
Just enjoy it because they're going to lose in the next round.
No. Root for the Rams and the thicker kicker.
I root for Mizzou, guys. I was very happy that he made that kick yesterday. I was terrified that he was going to miss it. And if he makes that kick, he probably gets a contract next year. If he misses the kick, he probably doesn't get that contract. So he probably just earned himself some millions of dollars with that kick against Chicago in that moment. So I was happy for him. If you hate the Rams, totally understand it. I was at my in-laws yesterday. They all strongly dislike the Rams. They were very upset when they won. And my brother-in-law is a Bears fan, so you can imagine how he was reacting to the news.
God.
So
What a brutal place to be.
Yeah. But, yeah, I get it.
I always root for the player before I worry about the team. Like, when the Rams left, it sucked, but, I liked Aaron Donald when they drafted him. I got the chance to interview him a couple of times when he was a rookie. He was always a great dude. So you root for the player and the team, even though there's hatred there. You still get excited for like the Capitals. I never liked the Capitals, but I was rooting for TJ Oshie to win the Stanley Cup. So that's kind of how I've always been.
From the 314, T-Bone, I don't need to get your thoughts on the matter.
Just root for the Rams.
I have a question. Why was Sean McVay taking all of the blame for calling plays? Don't they have an offensive coordinator? Yes, but Sean's in charge of the offense. Much like with Andy Reid, he's in charge of the offense. Chiefs fans are freaking out today because they're probably going to hire Eric Bieniemy as their next offensive coordinator. It's Andy's offense. It's Sean's offense. It's Kyle Shanahan's offense. Just the way that it is with Mike McDonald and the Seattle Seahawks. It's his defense. He's the guy running the show on that side of the football. And then they put somebody in charge of the other side of the ball. And they basically become like the head coach of the defense or the head coach of the offense. It's Sean Payton's offense. Most people probably couldn't name the Broncos offensive coordinator. There's a reason for that. It's just not all that important of a position.
I can't even name our offensive coordinator, and I'm a Rams fan. I think it's LaFleur's brother.
I think it's Mike LaFleur. And your passing game coordinator is Nathan Scheelhaus, who's getting a ton of buzz as a next NFL head coach. That doesn't mean those guys are bad. Like, think about how many of Shanahan and McVay's assistants on the offensive side of the ball have gone on to have success elsewhere. They might be brilliant, but the offense is McVay's. It's his show.
Yeah, he calls all the plays. Those guys are just there for meetings to try and give him ideas or bounce ideas off of him. And sometimes they're there to remind him to run the ball, too. Like, I know he had brought that up with, I think it's LaFleur who was the one that brought that up. He said, hey, look, sometimes I need the assistant in my ear going, we need to run the ball. And then he'll give it off to Kyron Williams to play, and then they'll go back to throwing 10 in a row.
From the 314, guys, I realize it's a different rule this year for Cam Fowler, but was it a mistake to give him that extension? Yes.
Yeah.
I would have let it play itself out. I mean, you let it play itself out with Broberg, with Holloway. I don't think I would have jumped to sign him to an extension until I saw what the next year looked like. Some guys play better when they're facing uncertainty. And when they get comfortable, sometimes guys get a little more comfortable, and I think that might be the case here. Cam Fowler has played a lot with Logan Mailloux. That's a tough thing to do when you play with a young kid, a rookie, and try and help him understand the game at the NHL level. Not everybody is Ryan Suter that can tell somebody to play a certain style. But, yeah, I wouldn't have jumped into it. I would have let him play this season out, and if this season would have started off well, then I would have addressed it.
Yeah, I don't think there was any reason to get it done when they did it, right? You play it out. You see how he does. He couldn't repeat what he did last year for the Blues. I mean, that was unrealistic expectations. So you were buying at his high, right, when he came over from being on a bad Ducks team. So you wait it out, you see what he looks like, and then like you said, when you get to about this point in the year, then you could have these conversations again if he was playing well.
Now, I will say $6.1 million isn't going to hurt this team at all moving forward. I mean, he's making less than what Parayko, Krug, and Faulk do. Now, if that's a third-pair defenseman, it's not the greatest thing, but you imagine Faulk's money is coming off of the books. Krug's money is on LTIR every season, so it's not going to kill you from making other moves, but, yeah, I think it was a little premature.
Yeah, it's not going to kill you, but it's not good money. You've got a 35-year-old defenseman who's probably getting worse, not better. Full no-trade clause for the next couple of seasons, and you may be entering into a full rebuild. It's just not the kind of situation that you want to be in as a team. And it was unnecessary. You did not have to get that deal done. And they chose to do it instead. So I think that we have seen If there is a criticism of Doug Armstrong, and I think by and large he's done a really good job, but everybody, we have stuff that we don't do well. Even if you love our show or if you hate our show, like there's stuff that we don't do at a particularly high level. Clock management being chief among them. It's 12:03. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers and officially licensed
Nobody
Rolex
does that
jeweler.
well around here.
If there is a criticism for Doug Armstrong, it is that at times, especially on the defensive core, they've jumped the gun on some of these extensions a little bit early, and it's come back to bite them more often than not in recent seasons. Coming up next, we had some young quarterbacks go in very different directions over the weekend. What does it mean for them, not only in the here and now, but also the long term? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK, and it's time to unlock your inner champion. The place to do so is with my friends at Victory Men's Health. I went out there last week after the show to get my micronutrient levels checked. Last time that I went in to do so, I was on a vegetarian diet. My diet has since changed. So, need to find out where I'm at today compared to where I was the last time that I went to get my micronutrient levels. For me, that's how they help me unlock my inner champion. Every single month, they send me a package in the mail. It is sent directly to my door. It has all of the different supplements that I can take in the morning to unlock my inner champion. For you, maybe it's a little bit different. Maybe it is getting help with erectile dysfunction. It could be losing some of that unwanted weight. Maybe it is your testosterone levels. You feel like you don't have the same energy that you once did. Maybe you have some mood swings. Whatever the case, they can check your levels over at Victory Men's Health. Find out where you're at on that healthy range for adult men. Check them out today. They're online at victorymenshealth.com. That's where you're going to book that first appointment. Super easy process at victorymenshealth.com. That's victorymenshealth.com. Officially official, the Buffalo Bills have fired Sean McDermott. Head coach of the Bills is out after their divisional round loss this weekend against the Denver Broncos. The Bills were the winningest team in the NFL since 2020, at least in the regular season. In the playoffs, they lost in the conference championship game twice, and they lost in the divisional round 4 different times, Alex. They have Josh Allen, who's one of the best quarterbacks of this generation. They've had a pretty solid defense in most of those seasons. Even this year, they had a top 3 pass defense in the league, despite being completely ravaged by by injuries from start to finish. And yet, in the end, they lose in the divisional round once again, and now Sean McDermott is without a job. This is the big news this morning. Do you think it was the right call for the Bills to decide to go in a new direction? Did they need to make this change, in your opinion?
They needed to make a change, but I don't think it was at the head coach. I think it was at the general manager. I don't think Sean McDermott is the problem for that team. Nothing in the game made me feel like, oh, geez, the coaches. It's not like the Eagles when I watch the Eagles play, and it's like, yeah, they got a problem with their head coach. I think the problem that the Bills suffered from this season, just like they have suffered from the last couple of seasons, they don't put a winning roster around Josh Allen. They make the wrong decisions on players. You know, Donny, when he was venting to us in the office, you know, the wide receivers that they've gone out there and given money to, Curtis Samuel and Josh Palmer, and they have an offensive line that just allows their quarterback to get beaten to the ground. They don't have a pass rush. I think the general manager, the man that is in charge of that team, is the guy that should have been let go and brought somebody else in that knew how to build a winning team around him.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake letting go of Sean McDermott. I mean, you just mentioned they've had the most wins since 2020, so he is a good football coach, and he's gotten a lot out of a roster that at times has looked pretty weak. And even if they did have a complete roster, sometimes, man, you just get beat by the best. And they ran into Patrick Mahomes a couple of times in the playoffs. Like, there's not much you're going to be able to do about that. The tough part, though, like, if you're going to make the argument of, hey, they needed to make a change, I agree the GM feels like a problem for them, but it's hard to sell on another GM of, hey, we're firing our GM but keeping our head coach. You either had to let go of both, in my opinion, or you had to keep both. And that's the way I would have gone about it. I don't think, like, you're so late to this cycle, too. There's no one else that I look at and go, obvious candidate for the Buffalo Bills to go hire. It's probably going to be an underwhelming hire for them.
So what would you say is the calling card for Sean McDermott? What's his thing? What does he do at a really high level? Defense, right?
Yeah.
He's the defensive mind. That's what he is supposed to be in charge of. Andy Reid is the offensive mind of the Chiefs. Sean McVay is the offensive mind of the Rams. Kyle Shanahan, offensive mind of the 49ers. You look up in Seattle right now. They're in the NFC Championship game because of their defense. Their coach is the defensive mind. Now, that doesn't mean you're exempt from anything that happens on the other side of the ball, but if you're going to be a head coach that has an expertise on one side, you damn well better be good at it. In the regular season, Sean McDermott has been. His defenses, generally speaking, have been quite good in the regular season. And here's how they've lost in the postseason. Here's the number of points that they have allowed. Now, it's worth noting, 4 of these 6 games came against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. It's not easy to stop them in the playoffs, but the numbers are what they are. They have allowed 33, 32, 27, 27, 42, 38 points in the playoffs when they lose. Their offense in those games scored 30, 29, 24, 10, 36, 24. Most of those offensive performances should be good enough with a defensive-minded head coach to advance in the postseason. It hasn't been for the Bills. I think there is enough criticism at this point in time for the way that he constructs his defense that some of this had to come back on Sean McDermott. I think he's a good head coach. I think if he ends up getting a job elsewhere, he'll probably do a pretty good job there. I think it is fair at this point in time to say we might be wasting Josh Allen's prime with a coach that can't get him over the top. Sometimes you do have a guy that's he's just good. And you need somebody else to be able to get you to that next level. And I don't know who that person is for the Bills. I don't think it is Brian Daboll. If that's their plan, I think they've made a huge mistake here. Because I think that Sean McDermott's a better coach than Brian Daboll. But if they go out there and make, like they go hire Nathan Shieldhouse, the Rams passing game coordinator, or they hire even like a Mike McDaniel who might be able to maximize what they're doing offensively. I don't know who that person is, but if they're able to make the right hire this offseason, I think they can take this thing to the next level. I think there's a little bit more in the tank than what they've been able to get out of Sean McDermott's time there. I think the way that he plays defense and the passivity of it all, like they just don't get overly aggressive. I saw today, the last time that an edge rusher for the Bills had a sack in the playoffs, when do you think it was? They've reached the playoffs. They've been the winningest team in the NFL since 2020. When do you think the last time was that a Bills edge rusher had a sack in the playoffs?
Oh, boy. 3 years ago?
Something with Von Miller.
That's who I'm thinking is Von Miller, but I can't remember how
2020.
long it was. Was it Von Miller? Well, no, he was a Ram, I think.
I don't think so, no. But 2020 was the last time that a Bills edge rusher had a sack in a playoff game. Guys, it's 2026. That's 5 years without an edge rusher getting a sack in the playoffs, and it speaks to both the roster construction, where they don't have big-time edge rushers that are able to get that production, but also it speaks to the defense and the way that it's constructed and the inability to consistently put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And when you get to the playoffs, if you can't impact the quarterback, good luck. How are you winning?
I don't disagree. I mean, sometimes you do need a change for change's sake, and it does feel like for a team that just always underwhelms, you got to make some type of change. But, man, like, I get what you're saying. I also don't think they've ever really gone out there and aggressively tried to upgrade that defense in terms of roster players. Like Von Miller was probably the best asset that they went after.
They went out and got Joey Bosa this year. Part of it, though, is like you can't. What are you doing in order to get that? You pick at the back end of the first round every year where edge rushers, when you get there, you don't expect them to become superstars. Those guys go in the top 10, and they don't have the money to go out there and sign a superstar free agent, because they have Josh Allen on a massive contract, which they should. You had to re-sign him.
But they're also throwing contracts at Curtis Samuel and Josh Palmer and
$10 million a year. I mean, it's.
I look at what the New England Patriots just did, and like they got Mike Vrabel, yes, but they also went out there and threw a lot of money at some difference makers on defense.
They've got a rookie contract at the quarterback position. That's $50 to $60 million a year that the Buffalo Bills do not have to spend. You can't operate the same way when you're in this era of your build. Well, you have to go about it differently.
And that would be to the point where, like, I don't know that you can afford to do, like, the smaller, like, not so much the smaller deal, but wasting $10 million on a Palmer that
and do it back-to-back years of going out there and spending on other.
You have to get a receiver
take
as well.
Shots in the draft then at the receiver spot.
They have.
Yeah, and
they failed there, like, too. That's front office.
Agreed.
Yeah. But I agree on the argument of, like, if you're going to try and unlock something for this, because I think that's a fair argument, right? You're going to try and unlock something more with the coaching. I don't know who that guy is, right? Like, I agree with you. I think if it's Table, good luck, right? Like, they were late into the cycle because they were in the playoffs. Like, if you were going to do this, to me, it would have had to have been last year.
Well,
and the
really
reason I say that
is
because Ben
changed.
Johnson was available.
Sure, but they didn't need to make this change last year. They thought that, hey, we'll run it back one more time, see if they're able to take the next step. It felt like this could have been their year. I mean, the opening was there. The offense scored 30 yesterday. Josh Allen turned it over left and right. And the offense still was able to put up 30 points against what was one of the top 3, conservatively speaking, best defenses in the NFL. But his defense against Bo freaking Nix, or as Alex calls him, Bo Picks, gave up 33 yesterday, man. Like, that's on you. If you're the head coach and you specialize on the defensive side of the ball and Bo Nix throws for 280 against you with no sacks in the game and only 1 pick, hey, man, sometimes that has to fall under your resume. And I think that a fair amount of criticism should be levied. I also just don't think he coached a very good game in that game. Some of that criticism has to be levied against you. And now they're going to go out there. They're going to hire their next head coach. And if they get the hire right, I think they'll probably be right back into Super Bowl contention. And if they get it wrong, we'll look back on it and say it was a huge mistake. And what do you think is the floor with Josh Allen as their quarterback?
Well, I would say 10 wins, but I would have thought that with, like, Mahomes and Jackson, and that didn't end up being the case.
Yeah, I feel like if they next season hire Brian Dable, they'll still probably win 10 games in that division. You got the Dolphins and the Jets, where that's 4.
But, I mean, they're an organization at this point. They're not talking about their floor. They're talking about their ceiling. And
that's why you make this move.
Understood, but the reason that I'm saying this is because you've already failed spectacularly in the playoffs for almost a decade now. The upside, to me, is worth the risk. Because if the risk is we win 10 games and still get to the postseason next year, there's really not as big of a risk as maybe we're suggesting, because they've only made it to the championship game twice in the last 6 years with Josh Allen. and they have yet to make it to the Super Bowl. So I've got to try to aim for that upside here. And I know, T-Bone, this gets back to our age-old discussion of upside versus downside. I just think the downside is limited and the upside is untapped. Might as well find out what's out there. Now, I think the upside with Brian Daboll is limited, so why would I go that direction? I think that would be a silly hire for them. If you're going to go out there, though, and hire somebody that's a hot shot, like you're betting on the next dude, the way that the Jaguars did with Liam Cohen, where you didn't know if he was ready to be a head coach at this level, and then you see it this year. Yeah, he was clearly ready. He was the best guy that you could have possibly hired. When DeMeco Ryans was hired as the next head coach of the Texans, I wasn't sure if he was ready to take on that gig. He's been a really good head coach for them. If you go make that kind of a hire for the Bills and you hit it right, and you get the young guy that's able to grow with Josh Allen, you could, for the next 10 years, be the team to beat in that division once again. You just got to get it right.
Yeah,
and the guy in charge of making that selection is the guy that's been terrible at roster building. So I'm sure they'll get it right.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
And also the crop of people out there is just,
Yeah, that's the
so
other,
good right now.
Typically, I get it. Like when you are a rebuilding or I guess soul-searching franchise, like the Texans, for example, definitely soul-searching franchise when they hired DeMeco Ryans. I get it, right? Like, okay, we're going with the hot shot. We'll see if he can kind of grow with the young roster that we're growing with him. I get that. When you have an established, we've got one of the best quarterbacks in the league, we're always in the playoffs no matter what, and we're always a team that definitely still has a shot at the Super Bowl. Do I really want to take a risk at a hot shot? Because we've seen, like, I agree, I think the floor is 10 wins with Josh Allen. But I don't know, and I've seen hotshot coordinators that come in and they just aren't ready to coach.
But with this level of quarterback?
I think even then it could still fail miserably. Not like
can you think
5
of one?
wins.
I'm genuinely asking, like, who's the guy that came in and with this level of a quarterback? I'm talking about, like, Hall of Fame level, top 3 in the league, as good as you're going to get, that level of quarterback. Who's the coach that came in and just fell on his face and failed spectacularly? I can't think of one. This kind of guy just elevates your floor to the level where, like, you're going to be a good team. Now, the Chiefs were not a good team this year. They wouldn't have won 6 games, though, if Mahomes didn't get hurt. They would have won 8 or 9 minimum. And it was the year from hell in every possible way. And that's clearly their floor with Patrick Mahomes. Maybe we will find out next year. The floor with Josh Allen is a little lower than what I'm suggesting. Maybe the coaching on the defensive side of the ball has elevated their floor more than what I'm giving it credit for in the regular season, even if it shows up in a bad way in the postseason. And so now they're a 9-win team. I think the division plays into this, where the Chiefs played against a division from hell, where they've got the Chargers and the Broncos, and they had a really tough schedule outside of the division. The Bills don't have that. The Bills have the Dolphins and the Jets. They'll play 4 times next year. It's a pretty good way to live if you're them. So it's a fascinating decision, man.
You also hope that next year you're not looking back saying, man, we shouldn't have fired Sean McDermott.
What would you guys do?
I would have kept McDermott.
What would you do now? Sorry.
Oh.
Who would be the guy that you're targeting?
I think I would target one of the Rams assistants because that's what's typically worked. I'd either hire LaFleur's brother or I would hire
I'd hire Shieldhouse.
Shieldhouse, yeah. I think that's what I would do.
Definitely
I would not hire Shula, but I said Rams assistant. Let me cross one off. I would not hire Shula.
Definitely offensive assistant. The defensive assistants do not have the same quality track record.
Definitely go get an offensive mind.
Yeah. That's who I would do.
I wouldn't do Dable.
Would you have hired Harbaugh if he was still available?
Yes.
I would not.
No, because I think he's the same of McDermott, where he's really good.
I would have hired him. I think it takes you to another level with that type of coach.
Do you call Tomlin?
No, I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing. I think if you at this point you have to commit to my opinion what you're talking about. I still worry it fails, but I think that's what you have to do.
It's a really, really fascinating offseason.
Kurt Signetti?
Yeah, I mean, you got to call him. He's going to tell you no. Apparently, he said over the weekend, I'm not an NFL guy, so we can go ahead and cross that name off the list. But I would call Shieldhouse. It sure seems as though he's the next guy in line with the Rams.
He's already said he's staying, but would you call Freeman, Marcus Freeman? I don't think I would because I think he screams the same thing of McDermott. But I'm sure they will.
I would prefer to get an offensive mind in there, just pair him with Josh Allen if possible. But, man, hire the best coach. I don't care. Whoever that ends up being. I would seriously consider Mike McDaniel.
See, I don't like McDaniel as a head coach. I think he can't control the locker room. I think we saw that in Miami. And I get it, Tyreek's a problem, but I think you saw that he couldn't control the locker room. And I mean, I've watched his offense in cold weather. Not good.
I've watched the Miami Dolphins in cold weather, and I've seen that for 2 decades. I don't know that his offense is necessarily the problem. I think the whole situation just is not good. I wonder if with Josh Allen as the quarterback of that offense in cold weather instead of Tua Tagovailoa in that offense in cold weather, maybe the results look a little bit different. But you can't ask for a better situation. If you're a head coach, if you're a candidate, this is the one that you go after.
What would Donnie's reaction be if they hired like Cliff Kingsbury?
Oh God,
Donnie would lose his mind.
Oh,
Donnie's already.
I think they're going to hire Brian Dable.
I think they are too, which a mistake.
I have to imagine too, if you're them, you're going to Josh Allen saying, "Who do you want?"
And I bet he'd want Dable.
And Josh Allen's going to want Brian Dable.
Yeah, Dable I don't know how good his relationship is Brady, but I don't think you can do that where you fire the coach and then just promote Joe Brady.
We've seen it work before where people have done that, but I don't know that that's necessarily the right. Like last year, if Tampa Bay had fired Todd Bowles and kept Liam Cohen, it probably would have been the right call.
Yeah.
But I don't know that Brady is as good at his job as Liam Cohen is at his.
Yeah.
Coming up in 15 minutes, can the Blues expect to get a similar return this season for what we just saw from another defenseman in the NHL? For Justin Faulk, we'll talk about that in 15 minutes. In or out, coming up next. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for in or out. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are in or out here on BK and Ferrario. Alex, let's start out with this one. In or out, the Denver Broncos will still make it to the Super Bowl despite Bo Nix's injury, and they will play in this year's Super Bowl.
Out. I think the Patriots beat them.
Patriots a 5.5-point road favorite right now.
Yeah. I think the Patriots defense can make plays as we just saw and against who's their backup quarterback? I don't even know.
Stidham.
I think Jared Stidham's going to have a rough night. By the way, Nick Foles, all credit to you for your tweet last night. Did you see what he put out?
Amazing.
Just amazing. He put out that Denver Broncos have a history of struggling against backup quarterbacks in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
New England Patriots.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, Patriots.
Wow, unnecessary, Nick.
I thought it was great.
I'm out as well. I don't expect that Patriots defense played pretty well. We just saw against C.J. Stroud. Now, was that more C.J. Stroud or the defense? I don't know, but I can't imagine Stidham's going to be able to do enough to get them over the top, so I'm out.
I don't say this to diminish the Patriots. Let me say this once again. I don't say this to diminish the Patriots. You play the schedule that's in front of you. They are going to have one of the easiest paths to the Super Bowl that we have ever seen. Now, they took advantage of it.
That's why the Bills should have won.
100%. Give credit where it's due. If you go up against, a bunch of backup quarterbacks during the regular season and you beat them, you took advantage of the opportunity that was in front of you. If you then go up in the playoffs against the LA Chargers with half of an offensive line and no workable receivers, and you beat them 16-3, God bless you. If you then go up against C.J. Stroud, who has seemingly had the Monstars steal all of his talent, and a receiving room that did not include Nico Collins or Dalton Schultz, and you take advantage of it, you deserve the credit for doing so. And now you're going up against the Broncos without their starting quarterback as well. It's very fortunate for them, but I agree with you guys. I do think they will ride this wave straight to the Super Bowl, and we will once again see the New England Patriots back in the Super Bowl. What do you got, Alex?
Guys, in or out, there's going to be a little pissiness to my scenario here, but in or out, we are going to learn at the end of this season that the problem on the power play was not the coach, Steve Ott, but it was the players you don't have that can have success on the power play. Yeah. The amount of people that is like, oh, good, Steve Ott's off the power play. It'll be good now.
To be fair, Ott's been let go of every duty from power play to penalty kill back to power play, back now to the AHL.
Do you know the last time the Blues were a top 10 power play in the National Hockey League?
Was it with Perron?
It was with a roster that had Perron and Tarasenko and Ryan O'Reilly and guys that could, actually score on the power play.
I'm going to say, I think Snuggerud can score on the power play, but he's never on the bumper. It's always the guy that passes the puck.
No, he is on the bumper. They won't put him on the one-time shot.
I know, but it was Thomas previously.
Yeah, that's fine. I also think that's because they don't have a lot of guys that also are good around that player. If you had a guy who was good on the bumper and a good that was in front of the net and a good guy up at the blue line that could create plays, you'd score there.
I agree. It is not just on the coach. I also think it could partly be on the coach. I think the blame pie
in or out,
is like
we'll find out.
55-45. I don't think we'll find. Hell, yeah.
I would assume either Jim Montgomery or Claude Julien's the one that takes over.
Guys, in or out? C.J. Stroud will be a top 5 paid quarterback with his next contract extension.
And he will be. He shouldn't be. If I'm the Texans, I do not give him the extension this offseason. We haven't seen the same guy since his rookie year. And I thought over the weekend, you could tell the difference in the broadcast and the analysis that we were getting from Troy Aikman, who was more than willing to give you honest opinions of C.J. Stroud's play. And that is not always the case for Tony Romo.
Romo didn't even know
just says, "Here we go, Jim. Here we go."
Or Gene, get in on this.
Yeah. Troy Aikman basically said, C.J. Stroud has not been the same player since his rookie year. They need to find out why that is and correct it. And I would try to do that before I give him the contract. But we know the way that this tends to work. It's kind of like the Blues with their defensemen. They get out in front of it, and we'll see if it ends up going in the right direction or not. Sometimes it does. Sometimes teams get ahead of this, and like with the Jaguars, they got ahead of it with Trevor Lawrence. It's worked out. Other times they get ahead of it, like with Tua Tagovailoa, and it goes in the wrong direction, and then everybody gets fired as a result. The same thing's going to happen here with C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
I would not do it.
I mean, he's going to get paid. I wouldn't do it either, but I also see what else do you have to do? You got a young guy who has the upside. You just haven't seen it in a long time. You know, some questionable decisions once again on the front office trading away their left tackle this past offseason, but you have to pay him. I wouldn't, though. I'd like to push it off another year and say, like, hey, you got one more year to do this.
I'm with you guys. I'm in. I think they're going to pay him, but I would wait as well because, I mean, BK brought it up. A lot of times you look back on some of these guys that are like 50-50, would you do it or not? Teams always lean towards we do it, and then most of them end up regretting it. And Jacksonville's the one that they don't regret it. I still don't know if he's really the guy, though, that can get them over the top, but they had to do it, right? And that's the thing that teams fear the most is going back into quarterback purgatory because look at teams like the Giants, haven't really gotten out of it. Raiders haven't really gotten out of it. Hell, the Cardinals, another team since like Carson Palmer retired, haven't really gotten out of it.
Yeah, once you're stuck, it's really hard to get out of that place. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for in or out. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are in or out here on 101 ESPN. From the 314, I'm going to amend this one a little bit. Jordan Walker will finish a season with an OPS over 750 at some point in his major league career. He will have at least one season with an OPS above 750. I'll say in.
Yeah, I'll say in. He already finished one season with it above 750 OPS.
Is that why you said in? Because he's already done it?
Yeah.
I will say out. I don't think he's able to make the adjustments, and I think he could be out of baseball by the end of this year.
314-399-9646
you hate
is the Air
Jordan
Comfort
Walker.
Service text line. Yes, he
I
does.
hope he has success, but what's he shown me to tell me he's going to?
In or out, Clint Kubiak will be the next head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. He is the current offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. I think that would be a solid hire.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know who they're going to hire.
I was going to say, no matter who you hire, it's not going to look as good as what John Harbaugh has. But, yeah, I mean, probably the best option that you got, especially for how well the Seahawks are playing.
Yeah, I'll say in. I think they will look at him and say, hey, if he can get that out of Sam Darnold, imagine what he'll get out of Lamar Jackson.
From Mahomes' long body, in or out, the NFL refs all need to get on the same page and make consistent calls. In, I don't think it's going to happen, but that would be great.
That's like asking for a black and white description of what goalie interference is. That ain't going to happen.
Did you guys think that it was an interception?
I thought it was a catch.
It was a catch.
Personally. Yeah.
That was my opinion.
I mean, he had the ball, landed on the ground, and then the guy got it.
Ball came out of his hands when he was doing a somersault. Like, I don't know how.
And his knee's down.
Yeah, he was down immediately. And then they showed that play in the Devontae Adams where the ball was ripped out of his hand, and they said it wasn't.
I thought it was different, but
I thought they were pretty similar. And what I really didn't like about that decision in the Bills-Broncos game was like how definitive they were and had like no reason to look at it.
that was my frustration.
Especially at that point of the football game.
My immediate reaction, my gut reaction was, that's a catch. I can't believe that they called that an interception. That's very clearly a catch. As we saw more replays and different views of the replay, I have softened on that stance. I think it probably would have had to stand with whatever the call was on the field. But I don't understand why it was so urgent to get the next play going. My guess, and I've seen a lot of people give this tinfoil theory, is they wanted to make sure they got to the next game on time, and the next game was close to beginning, and because that game had taken so long, so maybe there was something to that. Maybe they just looked at it and said, hey, there's no way we're going to be able to overturn this. I don't know, but I think it deserved more of a look. And beyond that, the thing that frustrates me is they need to figure out how to officiate these calls where quarterbacks are intentionally underthrowing the ball and the receiver works through the defender to get back to the football, and they are rewarding a terrible throw.
Yeah,
I'm with you there.
And it's called as pass interference. And by the letter of the law, I suppose it technically is. But it's teams hunting for pass interference instead of actually playing the game and actually trying to allow their player to go make a play. Those are the ones that frustrate me to no end, but just the lack of consistency in how they call pass interference. Like last night, I thought they had a great game where I didn't really notice the refs for the vast majority of the game. Meanwhile, in Buffalo, it was the whole game. Yeah. You knew the refs were dictating the play.
Yeah, and to your point on teams hunting out those PIs, I think that's what the Rams were doing, if we're being honest. I think it was overtime, where they run two fades to the end zone while in field goal range on like 2nd and 10.
I hate
now,
that.
why would you be doing that rather than saying, let's dink and dunk our way down the field to get in better field goal position? Let's go fade route, Let's underthrow the ball, and let's see if our receiver runs into the DB and gets the penalty.
Splashback Deuce on YouTube also says PI should be half the distance to the foul. I would be cool with every pass interference being a 15-yard penalty.
Like college.
Yeah.
Instead of it being a spot foul, just make it a 15-yard penalty.
I agree.
Because some of the, like, you could get a 50-yard penalty on pass interference. It's just unnecessary. All right. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. We'll get into the junk drawer coming up in 15 minutes. But next, there was a big trade that went down in the NHL over the weekend. A defenseman in a very similar spot to Justin Faulk got a huge return for the Calgary Flames. Is that what the Blues can expect if they decide to move Justin Faulk this year? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. The national championship is tonight, Alex, and that means it is time to get in on all of the action. Over on the Underdog app, I've got a 40% profit boost ready to go for me on my Underdog app. You can get in on all of the action by going higher or lower on passing yards, rushing yards. Maybe it's sacks. Maybe you want to go higher on Fernando Mendoza, 223 passing yards, lower on Carson Beck, 201 passing yards. Maybe you want to take higher or lower on some of the other players and their rushing yards. Maybe you think it's going to be a higher on Bain and his sacks for tonight. It's all available for you. You can put it together over on the Underdog app prior to tonight.
Whatever the play is, just add in a higher Carson Beck interception number. I just feel like he's going to throw a couple of them against Indiana tonight. So download the Underdog app today and use promo code BKO. Make sure you use that promo code BKO and you'll score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO Underdog. Make plays, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues fell to the Oilers 5-0 yesterday. They will be back in action tomorrow night when they visit the Winnipeg Jets. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And tonight here at 101 ESPN, the national championship game between Indiana and Miami. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 5:30 with kickoff at 6:30. This Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an Icon Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Big news over the weekend in the NHL as a trade went down by the Calgary Flames. Rasmus Andersson traded, as we all expected, for like a year now to the Las Vegas Golden Knights.
Shocker, the Knights get a really good player.
Welcome to the club.
They gave up a haul. They gave up a first-round pick plus more. Mm-hmm. Alex, is this the kind of return that you would expect for Justin Faulk if he were to be traded prior to this year's deadline?
I don't think you're going to get the same return. So it was a first-round pick on top of an NHL-ready defenseman in Zach Whitecloud, on top of a second-round pick that can become a first-round pick if Vegas wins the Stanley Cup.
That's insane.
So, that's a lot to pay for a pending UFA that wouldn't sign a contract extension. Now, everyone is just believing that he's going to sign a contract extension, but he just didn't want to do it right now because he wants to get paid. But I do think what Rasmus Andersson got, you can get close to that. I've seen a lot of the Boston Bruins because Rasmus Andersson was potentially going to Boston, but because he wouldn't sign a contract extension, Boston pulled out. They were offering one of their top defensive prospects who's playing in the NHL now and a first-round pick in next year's draft. I think the Blues can get something like that for Justin Faulk because when he got traded, I'm like, man, Andersson is better than Justin Faulk, and he's younger. But, I looked at it over on Hockey Reference and on Natural Stat Trick. Anderson's a slight tick better than Justin Faulk offensively in the last 3 seasons. Faulk is a better defenseman. In terms of his own end, he's a better defenseman than Rasmus Andersson. Now, the hiccup with all of this is you got one more year of Justin Faulk, and he's 33 years old. So I don't know if teams are willing to pay a hefty price for a guy that they're committed to that doesn't know what it's going to look like next year. But I think you're talking if the Blues were able to just get a prospect from the team or a first-round pick, I think that's probably doable for Justin Faulk because now that Anderson's off the board, he's the next best defenseman that's available.
Can I add a little bit of context to this as well?
Yeah.
Because there's another deal that just went down. Kiefer Sherwood was traded to the San Jose Sharks. In return, the Sharks sent a second-round pick in the upcoming draft, a second-round pick in next year's draft, and Cole Clayton, a defenseman as well.
Undrafted defenseman he's 26. He's playing in the
Sure,
AHL.
so a nothing burger.
Yeah.
2 second-round picks for Kiefer Sherwood on an expiring deal this year. I mean, if this is the market, and Kiefer Sherwood's fine.
Yeah, he's got 17 goals, but I think he's, benefited from scoring 5 on the Blues this season.
Yeah, he's a fine player. If this is the market, it is very clearly a seller's market out there because everybody thinks they're in it.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody that is trying to sell, you're probably going to get more than what the player is actually worth because there's so much demand and so little supply out there. I think the Blues can take advantage of this market, Alex. And if that means you get a first-round pick plus for Justin Faulk, I don't think that's crazy at all.
No.
If that means you could go out there and get, a first-round pick plus for Braden Shin, I don't know that he's worth that at this point in his career, but he plays the exact style that people value. Mm-hmm. He is the veteran presence with the playoff pedigree that people will value. I think the Blues could really dramatically change what they can do this offseason by trading many of these assets prior to this year's deadline because it is once again worth noting just because they have 3, 4, however many first-round picks this year does not mean that they will have to use all of them.
Yeah.
Those could eventually become assets that they trade for other players. They could become assets that they trade for prospects. They could become assets that they do pick, and then it becomes a prospect, and then next year they use those prospects at the trade deadline to trade for something that maybe they prefer. So,
and I actually, and to your point of it's the seller's market now, there's 4 teams that are going to be sellers. Vancouver has essentially sold off their trade deadline assets, because like Elias Pettersson's name's in there. Somebody's going to pay $11.5 million for him. There's only a few teams that are going to go after that. The Calgary Flames have shipped out their best piece. They've got Blake Coleman, who I could kind of comp to what Braden Shen is, although Shen's a center. And then if they trade Nazem Kadri, which their owner doesn't seem to want to. And then the Rangers. And the Rangers got a ton of guys who are locked up to long-term contracts. So like the Blues are in a position, like if I'm Doug Armstrong and I see this, one, I think it's smart that I've waited this long. Let the market dry up so the teams come to you. Two, I'd start packaging players together like I did when they traded away Tarasenko and O'Reilly and Mikkola. Like if Boston was willing to pay that for Rasmus Anderson, call up Boston and say, we've got Justin Faulk and Pius Suter. Can we get what you were willing to give Rasmus Anderson? I'd start packaging these pieces. But I also wonder because if you're the Rangers, if you're the Canucks, if you're the Flames, you want draft picks. And a lot of teams may not care about draft picks. How much do they care about the prospects? Because I wonder if the Blues say, hey, we don't want the picks. Give us your best prospect. And maybe that makes it more tolerable to where they're not giving up picks and prospects. I don't know. I don't know what the mindset is of Doug. You're absolutely right. If I could get a first-round pick, that could get traded at this year's draft and go get me a player that's worth it.
You also don't have a second-round pick in either of the next 2 years.
Yeah, and I think between... If you put Suter on the block, I think between Suter, Shen, Falk, Sundqvist, barring his injury, which, man, that was scary last night.
I don't know that he's going to be.
No, yeah, he might not be available. Thank God that wasn't his Achilles. You've got Joseph, who's dealing with his injury now. Like, of those pieces, you're going to get a second-round pick. Maybe you hope you can get a first-round pick, which is essentially a second round. But when I saw Anderson get traded and then with this Kiefer Sherwood, yeah, this is a seller's market, and the Blues are in the best position because they've got everybody available, and these other teams have just a lot of bloated contracts that only a few teams can take on at this time.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, we're going to dive into the junk drawer here on BK and Ferrario.
Tanner Hendrickson here, and championship weekend is upon us, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every moment feel bigger. Let's look ahead, and I'm going to go to that AFC championship game. Look, with the injury to Bo Nix, I'm all in on the Patriots. I'm going Patriots minus 5.5. I think they're going to be able to run the football well, so I'm going to Ramondre Stevenson anytime touchdown, and I'm going to have him for 50-plus rushing yards at plus 375 odds. And get this, with DraftKings, they've got your back this postseason with early exit protection. So if a player in your eligible NFL prop bet like mine goes down and Ramondre Stevenson at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. And they've also got great live betting options as well. And right now they've got a 30% championship boost going on for the college football national championship game tonight. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code TANNER. That's code TANNER to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Time to dive into the junk drawer today.
You don't know where to go with this one, or do you have something that you know is going to stir
I don't think I've ever done this before.
frustration? You weren't prepared for
I'll be
it?
totally honest with you. I don't think I've ever done this before on our radio show. I forgot to ask you guys if you have anything for the junk drawer today. We're talking about other things during the break.
Yeah.
And you were typing a book.
Yeah, I was going to say, we were talking about other things. You were on your computer.
How was your weekend, Alex?
It's fantastic, buddy. How was your weekend?
Is this the junk drawer? This is the junk drawer.
Yeah, man. I went and saw Rascal Flatts on Saturday.
When was the last time you went to a concert?
Did I go this summer?
You know what? You went to Blink.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
You
Blink
went
in
to
August.
Blink?
And then we saw Rascal Flatts last winter. They were in some little town that I'd never heard of in Illinois before. And I was like, let's drive to it. And we drove, and it was a great concert, but there's nothing to do there. But, yeah. It was a good
What's your
weekend.
favorite concert venue in the area?
Probably Wood Amphitheater. That's probably
What is it?
The Hollywood Amphitheater.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Stiefel's fun if you go for the right, like,
The thing that I struggle with at Stiefel is that you almost always are sitting down.
See,
and
I
it
kind of
feels
prefer
like,
that.
So,
oh, yeah, I got to sit down at Rascal Flatts because our seats were on the aisle, and we were looking down, and I'm like, yeah.
it changes the vibe, though. I like sitting down
we
for
know.
a concert.
It's like, what? Song? I stood at Blink 182 the whole time, and let me tell you, old Ferrario was like, can I just sit?
It just doesn't feel like there's energy in the crowd when everybody's sitting. And that's the one thing that throws me off.
You're the guy that tries to start the wave at concerts, aren't you? Be like, come on, guys.
I do think, though, that there's a different energy at a concert whenever you're standing compared to when you're sitting. So that's my frustration. That's my knock
That's your
against people
frustration.
as a...
No, I mean, it's got to be a
concert
very
venue.
intimate, like, we saw, and when we saw it, it was like, my God, this is old. But we saw Frankie Valli, because I love Jersey Boys, the musical, love Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons music. So, like, we saw him. First of all, the guy was like a corpse, but still, it was like an intimate setting that you're not standing for.
Sure.
But, like, in terms of a concert that I'm going to be up and singing to, yeah, it's amphitheater.
I like going to the Pageant and Del Mar Hall. Those are the two that
It's probably my
most
second
enjoy.
favorite. Yeah.
Smaller venues, a little more intimate, standing, room only.
Uppity Ferrario does not like lawn seats either.
What's the one?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
by the
can't do that.
pageant down there in Del Mar Hall.
Del Mar Hall.
Oh yeah, okay.
They're
That's
two
the one.
separate.
Sorry, for some reason when I had said that, I was thinking that was the road, but I was thinking of the Loop. That's what I was thinking of, the Loop area.
That is the Loop.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
I was thinking of the area, not the concert venue.
I told you guys during break, I just saw a video, Good Charlotte's going on tour, and they performed in L.A. the other night, and they like sang the anthem, the song that they're most famous for. 16-year-old Ferrario is ready to lose his mind at that concert.
We're all going to that together, right?
I'm not.
T-Bone doesn't even know who Good Charlotte is.
I think T-Bone might be... he might not hate their music.
Oh, no, you'd like their music.
Yeah.
You've
said-
probably heard their music before.
I'm
It's just
sure.
you don't know
I
it's
mean,
them.
I've heard most of the people that you guys have talked about. Like once I hear the song, I go, oh,
You've heard
okay.
the anthem before in movies, and it's just, you don't know it's Good Charlotte.
A couple people on the text line saying no love for the Factory in Chesterfield. I like the Factory. It's a good spot. It's huge, though.
Yeah.
I have
It's
not
so
been there.
big, and so I've been to a few different acts there that just can't fill it. They can't fill the space. And so it almost feels cavernous when you're in there and it's not all the way full. When you do get a concert that fills it up, though, it's a really cool atmosphere. It's just such a big venue for a lot of the people that end up going there, because many of the people that can fill it, they just end up going to like the Dome or to Enterprise or some of these other bigger events. The other one that I really like actually is the one at Centene. The music,
the outdoor one?
Music Park, I think.
Music Park.
I haven't got. I wanted to. Katie and I
I
wanted
actually
to.
really liked it.
Yeah.
Jason Mraz was there last summer. Katie and I wanted to go. We didn't get the chance to get out there for it. But
One of Kara's favorite bands played there last summer, and it was a great venue.
Yeah.
I was surprised by how
I haven't
much
been there,
liked
and I haven't been to the Factory. Those are the two spots that I have not been.
Oh, you've not been to the Factory?
Oh, really?
Interesting.
Nope.
I think I've been to about everyone around St. Louis now. Both
We used to go to concerts
go with my
all the
dad.
time now with the kid, as Alex knows.
Oh
It's
yeah,
a little tougher to do that.
we pick and choose the concerts. Like Rascal Flatts is just, it's nostalgic for us. It's what we listened to when we were dating. It's fun. So that was a perfect night out for Katie and I. But I don't go to concerts unless it's something that I know that I want to stay the whole time for.
He's Alex, that's T-Bone, I'm BK.
Great
I feel
junk
like we
drawer,
did a
man.
pretty good job there.
Great junk drawer, man.
Say, I had
feel like we
something
did a pretty
ready to
good
go.
We'll save that for tomorrow.
That
Now I
wasn't
know.
going to make it.
He's going to forget by then.
Coming
Yeah,
up
definitely.
next, what is the updated timeline for a Donovan deal? We got a little bit of insight on that from Chaim Bloom over the weekend. We'll tell you about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. At winter warm-up, one of the biggest topics of conversations, as you would expect, was Brendan Donovan. He was not at the event. Wouldn't have expected him to go. What are you going to say if you're Brendan Donovan?
I'm happy to be a Cardinal.
For now.
Looking forward to it.
What's your future hold? I don't know. Do you think you're going to be a member of the Cardinals on opening day? I don't know.
Hell yeah.
Like, there's no reason to put yourself through that. It puts you in a tough spot. It puts the team in the tough spot. Puts everybody in a tough spot. So I understand why he didn't go. I don't think it would have been a good idea for him to be there.
I felt kind of bad for Ollie having to answer questions about it.
No
Tough
doubt.
spot for him to be in,
Yeah,
too.
he's like, listen, I don't know.
Right now,
I can't
he's our
explain
starting
it.
second baseman.
Exactly. And he was asked in a roundabout way, hey, what do you think the time or the lineup will look like when it comes to third base? Like, who's your starting third baseman today? He's like, I don't, who's at second?
Yeah.
Like, that'll help me inform my decision on
What's on third.
at third.
I thought, what was at second?
No, who's on second?
No, who's on first?
No, what's on third?
He doesn't know.
He
what's
has
going on.
no idea. How do you not
Did you
know
get
this,
cultured?
man? That's black and white era, man.
Yeah. The famous who's on
You don't
first.
know Abbott
skit?
and Costello?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Are you serious? Okay,
That's a
you are no
famous
longer
baseball-
allowed
yeah.
to make fun of
Yeah.
him.
That's a
You are
famous
no
baseball skit.
You're a baseball guy. You don't know
Yeah.
Abbott and Costello?
I think it's who's on first, what's on second.
You
who's
might
on
be
third.
right.
Yeah.
Nope.
And the
Yeah,
guy
who's on
says,
first?
no, but who is on first? He goes, who's on first?
And then
Because who's the guy that's at first?
You uncultured swine.
Apparently. All right, so they were asked about Brendan Donovan over the weekend. Chaim Bloom specifically was asked about him, and
Chaim's like, oh, jeez.
he gave like a 2-minute answer. So we're not going to play it in its entirety. But to summarize what Chaim Bloom had to say, he more or less said, listen, we have to listen on this. This is a situation where he's a really good player and teams are interested. We at least have to listen. And then he was asked about the timeline on it. And he said, we would like to have something done one way or the other by the start of spring training. But the reality is we're at the risk of doing this on other teams' timelines. Because if the Cardinals could make the deal today, I think they probably would. But it is based upon what the offers are that are out there, Alex. So he was then asked, like, hey, can you give any clarity to his future right now? And he said no. I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate the fact that he's like, listen, this is something that we have to listen on. I'm being honest with you guys. This is all I can tell you. Did anything change for you on how you view Brendan Donovan's future based upon what you heard over the weekend from Chaim Bloom?
No, because I think he was honest, and this is how this works. They can't talk about these types of things. I mean, you can't talk about player transactions until it's done. They've made their thoughts clear that, look, he's available. Teams are interested. We're taking phone calls, and if we find the right deal, we're going to trade him. So I'd expect his answer to be, we can't say anything about this because right now you're in a holding period. I still think there's interest in Brendan Donovan. I still think the Cardinals are motivated to move Brendan Donovan. But what do you expect him to say? Yeah, we're trying to move him, but Seattle's not willing to give us this guy. They can't talk about that at this scenario. So, no, I still expect him to be moved before the team reports to Jupiter, or I expect him to be moved before the season begins.
Yeah, and nothing's changed for me, but I do like that he kind of put a deadline on it by saying, yeah, we'd like to get this done by spring training, which felt kind of like his shot across the bow of like, okay, we're going to listen. We're willing to be flexible on this. Final offers by spring training, or we might pull him off. Now, that's probably a bluff if I'm being honest. I think he would still move him in spring training if he got the right offer. But yeah, he's not going to say a whole lot about it, and they need to listen on Brendan Donovan because what Chaim said, he's right. He is a very good baseball player. And when you're a team that is in a rebuild or a build, depending on who you ask, you have to listen on these kind of guys that are 2 years away from free agency and don't really match up with your timeline for the next time you win. So, yeah, he said all the right things from what he could say about it. Yeah, they need to listen on Brendan Donovan. I still expect that he's going to be traded because that would be the right call for the organization.
That's my guess as well. I think he's dealt. I think somebody ends up meeting the asking price for the Cardinals, and Brendan Donovan is elsewhere. I think if Brendan Donovan, this is me reading way too much into things. It's my job. I think if Brendan Donovan really believes he was going to be here this season, he's probably at winter warm-up.
Agreed.
Just knowing how he operates, knowing the way he is, I don't think he's like making a fuss or anything, but I mean, we heard from Alec Burleson over the weekend. We heard from Mason Wynn over the weekend. These guys, like, Brendan Donovan is very, very clearly still talking to the other players on the team and acting as if he's going to be here this season, as he should be, because as of today, he is. But if he in his heart of hearts believed he was going to be a member of the Cardinals on opening day, I think he's probably there for winter warm-up.
Yeah, if there was the potential for a contract extension, I think he would have been there.
Agreed. And I don't think he's... I remain convinced he's probably not here unless there's an extension. And I don't think this is a situation where he's like denying the possibility. I think the Cardinals are choosing not to give that to him. And that's well within their right. they can do that because I think they're going to get a pretty good return for Brendan Donovan. The market has played out in a way that really feeds into their hand. They can demand top price from the Boston Red Sox. It sounds as though the Royals know, hey, we just don't have the package that's going to be necessary here. They basically took their name out of consideration for Jarren Duran and Brendan Donovan over the weekend. But if the Mets want to make a play for something, if the Dodgers want to make a move, they've got the prospects capital to do so. If the Seattle Mariners still want to make this move with the Cardinals, they could do so. Phillies, San Fran. There's a bunch of different teams out there that could really use a second baseman. Hell, the Padres, if they want to make a move, sure, let's go ahead and get them involved in the conversation. We know that guy's a crazy person.
The only thing the only thing I don't know, and like maybe this is just the typical off-season stuff, typically there's a reason things get held up, right? Like the delay on the Arenado market was he had to wait on Bregman, right? He had to wait on Bregman to see how things were going to go. I don't know what the holdup is now. Like, where's the pivot for some of these teams? Like Red Sox are probably looking for a right-handed bat. I have no idea where they're finding the so-called right-handed bat if it's not Nico Horner. I don't know what the thing is that is holding things down right now.
I don't know that there is a holdup right now. I think the holdup was Bregman, Tucker, and Bichette.
Well, I think Marte played into this as well.
Before that it was Marte, but then eventually it became these other players that are at the top of the market. That's the pivot point for a lot of these teams. We can just spend money instead of sending prospects elsewhere, so let's focus on these guys first, and then we'll pivot to the trade market. And so now that those guys have finally been signed, and that didn't take place until like going into the weekend, I think that was the holdup. And now I think there are a lot of teams that are deciding, like, who's the infield player that we want? Do we consider going with Nico Horner, who only has the 1 year of club control, and maybe he does come at a cheaper price for us than Brendan Donovan would because of the 2 years of club control? Or do we just go get Brendan Donovan because he's basically a better version of Nico Horner? So I don't think anything's held up now. I think now is the first time where clock kind of starts. And between now and the start of spring training, I think that's when you're able to get some kind of a deal done if you're in Chaim Bloom's shoes. So we have, 3 weeks to be able to do that?
Yeah.
I think that's the clock starts now.
Yeah.
For them to be able to.
And I would imagine there's other teams that are in the sweepstakes for Brendan Donovan that would like to have their roster solidified. So at some point you get your puke point to where, look, we either need to make this move or we stick with what we have. And that's where Chaim can kind of hold these guys ransom and say, look, you pay the price or we're going to spring training with Brendan Donovan. Those teams have to make the decision prior to it.
Alex joked about this earlier today, but Chaim Bloom, when he was doing his Q&A with fans out at the main stage at Ballpark Village over the weekend, one of the fans, God bless him, love the man, asked Chaim Bloom about Harrison Bader. Said, hey, Harrison Bader is still out there on the market. Is that a guy that the Cardinals would have interest in?
Fan.
And Chaim Bloom certainly didn't shut down the idea. He basically said, hey, I've made no mistake about it. I think that we could use another right-handed bat. If somebody were to fit into that spot, especially from the outfield, I think that would be a good addition for us this offseason. Then he was asked what Harrison Bader is asking for money-wise, and he said, well, I can't tell you that. So I don't know if Harrison Bader specifically is going to be the player that the Cardinals are interested. There was also a report today from John Heyman who said, hey, Miguel Andujar is somebody that is the market for him is intensifying. He's a right-handed bat that can play first, third, or either corner outfield spot. That would make a lot of sense for the Cardinals as well. We were talking about this a little bit before the show today. How do you think that right-handed bat would fit into the Cardinals' plans? Where do they fit for this team? Because that could influence the kind of player they're ultimately going after.
I mean, for me, I just think it's going to be a bench bat that can help relieve some of the day-to-day duties in terms of the position players. And you look at the outfield, I mean, Bader makes sense. As much as I've pushed back on this, I do think there is something meaningful to having a veteran presence around some younger guys. And you're talking about Victor Scott with Jordan Walker. These are going to be your outfielders. So I think Bader would make sense in terms of he's probably going to start the season for you in a corner outfield spot because of Lars Nootbaar uncertainty. And then as the season progresses, he's just going to be that guy that relieves somebody every once in a while.
If he's that player, I don't think he signs here. because he is somebody that probably still views himself as a legitimate starter in Major League Baseball.
Unless nobody is going to give him that opportunity, and then you go back somewhere comfortable. And that's why when you brought up Miguel Andujar, I don't know if we did that on air or off air, Miguel Andujar, that makes some sense because that guy has always been a super utility piece that just comes in and out of the lineup. So that would be the direction I think I would go, who came off of a really good offensive season. But I understand Harrison Bader.
Yeah, I think if they're bringing in a outfielder, it's probably likely it is more of just a fourth outfield role. You kind of rotate him in and out of the lineup to get guys off. And I assume they probably would want someone to be capable, at least, of playing center field because they don't really have another guy on the roster unless you're doing Nathan Church right now. But they clearly must want to upgrade over him. I wonder, my kind of tinfoil or curious thought that's come into my head, I wonder if they want to platoon with Nootbaar and left. And the reason I bring that up is, if you go out there and sign, I'll use Austin Slater as a placeholder, a guy I had some interest in the offseason or at the deadline last year. Guy that can really hit left-handed pitching, so you can bring him in. You can show off of, hey, Slater still hits lefty, so if you're a team that needs a platoon bat to upgrade at the deadline, boom, you can trade him out at the deadline. But also then you maximize what Lars Nootbaar is, right? So instead of playing him against lefties like they did a lot last year, where he's not been good against lefties over the last couple of seasons, you can increase his numbers against right-handed pitching, right? He plays better against righties, and then teams can look at him and they can say, hey, that's a guy we need. We need a left-handed bat for against right-handed starters. Nootbaar's a guy that we want to go out and acquire. That's what I wonder if they're considering doing, but I think it's more likely it's probably the fourth outfield option.
I think other GMs are smart, and if that's the way that they view Lars Nootbaar, they will be able to look at those numbers even without him being platooned for. I think they want to alleviate some of the playing time from these guys in the outfield. I think they want to have somebody that can actually come in here and play a decent amount. And that means, 3-4 days a week, you're getting starts in the outfield. And right now that player would be Nathan Church. And I don't think that's the way I would want Nathan Church to be viewed on this team. I think Nathan Church should probably start the season in AAA. And then if you need him, he can come up and he can get his opportunities. But that's another left-handed bat. You're very left-handed heavy right now in the outfield. I would like to see Harrison Bader get an opportunity here. And that means he can start, 3, 4, 5 days a week in the outfield. And listen, if that means it comes at the expense of some of these other guys, so be it. That's the way that this goes. And you could also rotate designated hitter this season. Like you could get somebody, if Jordan Walker gets a couple of days a week at DH this year, fine. If Lars Nootbaar, coming off of a very injury-plagued few seasons, gets a day or two a week at the DH spot, fine. I've got no issues with that at all. And then Ivan Herrera is going to get a couple of days at the DH spot as well. So I could see somebody like Harrison Bader making a ton of sense for this team, but as more of a surefire starter than maybe we were previously expecting.
Yeah. And I also think there's some value in having a guy who can be a voice in the clubhouse, because Tebow mentioned this in the office, and I'm really curious to find out which one of these young guys wants to take over as, hey, I'm the leader, or I can be the leader. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of guys that are willing to do that right away. So to get a guy like Harrison Bader who can be it because he's a veteran presence, I don't think that's a bad thing.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, time for some NFL quick hitters here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Let's dive into some NFL quick hitters. You guys want to go through these games one by one? Today's our real day to be able to kind of break these things down. Tomorrow we move on to a little more bigger picture stuff.
Let's do it.
Tomorrow we move on to Cincinnati.
Oh, that's right.
Let's start out with the Bills versus the Broncos game. Alex, what was your biggest takeaway from this one?
The Bills got screwed.
You really believe that?
Yeah.
That's okay if you do.
I do. I don't think that. Look, Josh Allen was not good in that game. I'm not disagreeing with you guys at all. He was mindless with the football. The offensive line didn't protect him at all, and they have no weapons that can get open. 2 interceptions, 3 fumbles. I also think that interception that dictated the game shouldn't have been an interception. I think it should have been down. I think he had control of the football, and then what happened, what happened. So, yeah, I do think the Bills got screwed over. I will say this. I gave Bo Nix a lot of crap this season. He played good. Broncos defense was good. I still think the Broncos are going to lose against the Patriots because I just don't see them as the Super Bowl contending team.
Yeah, Bo Nix was my biggest takeaway from that game. I mean, I was skeptical of him. I mean, the biggest concern about all the 1s and 2 seeds, I think, in the playoffs were how are their quarterbacks going to play. And I think that was fair of Bo Nix. And Bo Nix was awesome in that football game. I know it wasn't like 330-plus passing yards, anything like that big and sexy. Man, he showed they were a true Super Bowl contender. And that's why it sucks he went down with that ankle injury on just like a random running play that he ran to the left side.
If you had told me going into the game, hey, the Broncos running backs are going to combine for 10 carries for 41 yards, the defense is going to give up 30 points to the Buffalo Bills, how's this one go for Denver? Well, they got boat raced. They very clearly had no answers. And if you told me, hey, Cortland Sutton's only going to have 4 catches for 50 yards in the game, and Pat Bryant is going to get hurt in the first quarter after being clearly one of the focal points of their offense going into the game. Not only did they avoid getting boat raced, they found a way to win. And Alex, I know there was a controversial call that led to that. Bo Nix, though, outperformed Josh Allen on the day. He outperformed him. And that is not something that I saw going into that one. It sucks that he got hurt. That's a real bummer, man. I'm not completely writing them off in the next round because I just trust their coaching staff enough. I think Sean Payton's going to put together one hell of a game plan with Jarrett Stidham, but it's going to be hard for them to be able to advance. In this game in particular, though, before we get to next week, Bo Nix did everything you needed to see from him to believe this is a guy that can be a franchise-level quarterback. What's the ceiling? I don't know, 15th, 12th best quarterback in the league. I don't think it's super high. But with this defense, this coaching staff, that might be enough. 49ers versus Seahawks, we don't have to spend a whole lot of time here. Sam Darnold was basically asked to do nothing in this game. Kenneth Walker was unbelievable. Zach Charbonnet has torn his ACL, going to be out for the rest of the postseason. Wonder if that means the Seattle Seahawks will ultimately re-sign Kenneth Walker this offseason. The story of the game, though, was the Seahawks defense. Oh, my God, were they good in this one. The 49ers had no answers. This is what I thought it was going to look like last week when the San Francisco 49ers went up against the Eagles. Nope. But the Seahawks sure made them look bad. They could do a whole lot of nothing. Part of that's injuries, sure. A lot of it, though, is what Seattle was able to do defensively.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle watching that game, and again, it's the 49ers who are banged up, who have nothing else to go for. Like, that felt like a team that was just dying, and they finally died. But on the Seahawks side, that defense is elite. And they just, when Sam Darnold doesn't have to do anything, you're in a great position to succeed. And the good thing about Seattle is the Rams are kind of handicapped right now moving forward because Stafford didn't look right. So I think the Seahawks, on top of the AFC saying like it's a pretty easy path to get to a Super Bowl, I think the Seahawks have a pretty easy path to get to a Super Bowl as well.
First off, hurtful. But
it's true, though.
Yeah, mine was that Seahawks defense. I thought for sure Shanahan would be able to scheme something up, right? He just played them 3 weeks ago, I think it was, or 2 weeks ago. I thought, okay, well, this is like the perfect formula. Yeah, they're going to be the underdog. Yeah, you probably should pick Seattle. But if Shanahan just saw you, right, he's definitely going to have something for you. No answers at all. I mean, that Seahawks defense is unbelievable, and it was a reminder. I think it was partly a theme of the weekend. Man, you don't get to 1 and 2 seed by accident. You are a very good football team if you're doing that. I get it. They didn't have to call upon Darnold to do much. They haven't called upon Darnold to do much all season. That defense is that freaking good.
Seattle this year played against the 49ers 3 times. They gave up 17, 3, and 6 points in those 3 games. It's one of the best offenses in the league this year. And Seattle made them look terrible when they went up against them. So, every bit as good as their seeding would have indicated. The Patriots beat the Texans 28-16. This was a game that was lost by the Texans every bit as much as it was won by the Patriots. That being said, unbelievable throw by Drake May to basically put this thing on ice down the stretch of this one, to put them up 28-16 early in the fourth quarter. 30-yard pass down the sideline to Keyshawn Butte, who made an unbelievable catch on it as well, but it was a perfect ball where only his receiver could go out and get it. I didn't think Drake May was great in the game. I thought he was fine. He did just enough. This game was about CJ Stroud and his complete inability to settle down. He just looked erratic from the moment that the ball was kicked in this game. He never felt like he had any sort of rhythm. He was feeling pressure even when there was nothing there. His quarterback rating for the game was 28. When he spiked the football into the grass every play, it becomes a 39. So he would have been better off just doing that instead of what he ultimately decided to do. They did a whole lot of nothing. The Patriots defense was really good. I'll give them their props, but CJ Stroud should have been benched, in my opinion. I know that's a tough thing to do when he's been your starter and you trust him. They did not have as good of a chance to win that game with C.J. Stroud out there as they would have with Mills in the game.
Yeah, I mean, that was my biggest thing. C.J. Stroud looked broken by the half. He looked like he had no more confidence. He would go back to the bench and just sit there. Nobody would speak to him, which I could kind of understand. I don't know why they kept going back out there with him. And I know you're worried you're going to lose C.J. Stroud, and that's the quarterback of the future. Man, he was broken. The poor kid didn't know what to do, and he was just shaking the moment he stepped onto the field. I think at worst, you just put Davis Mills out there for one play to see if you can spark some type of momentum for your team and then try and gain Stroud's confidence back. That, to me, was the biggest thing. I think they should have pulled him, and I don't think they should have let him go back out there.
C.J. Stroud in 2 playoff games had 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions this year. 3
of his 4 playoff games I've not put good in his career. He was great once, I think, in a wild card game. I think it might have been against Pittsburgh.
It was against the Chargers.
Chargers, that's who it was.
And even that game, he was just good.
Yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't anything special. But I would not have benched him. He is the biggest storyline from that game, no doubt about it. He still is your franchise guy for now, at least. And that's why, to me, you can't bench him, because that just sends the wrong message going into the offseason. But it was a reminder with that team. I mean, we're seeing this. We just talked about Seattle. With that good of a defense, all you got to do is just make the simple plays. Even Drake May did this in the game. You mentioned the one big throw. That's all he had to make. And I think Alex said this, whichever quarterback makes the one throw going into the weekend will be the one that ends up winning. That's exactly what happened. Drake May, I know he threw 3 touchdowns. Nothing of it was special, just that one throw. Made the one big play to put it on ice. Stroud couldn't make the one big play.
I'm not going to mention the guy that plays in Kansas City because people get mad at me when I do. So I'll mention the guy that's won more Super Bowls than anybody else. Tom Brady. One of the things that I think is underrated about his playoff success is how often he was willing to just take what the defense gave him. Hey, you're going to give me this 6-yard in route the entire game? I'll take it. He just completes it over and over and over and over again. It's this brutal efficiency. And by the end of the game, you're like, oh my God, how did they score 24 points? And at the same time, you're like, man, it just felt like they were always getting 5 yards. Just every play was a positive for them. He didn't take sacks, he didn't turn the football over, and he kept moving the sticks. One of the things as I was watching the games this weekend, and this is in part because there were a lot of young quarterbacks that were playing, but also partially because, give a couple other factors, really good defenses were on the field this weekend. So that's definitely part of this. Some of these quarterbacks just got way over aggressive. Like, there were moments in these games, especially late, where if you just take 5 to 7 yards, you put yourself in either better field goal position, or you give yourself a chance to go for it on 4th down, or if it's 2nd and 10 and you get 6 yards, you put yourself in position to maybe run it on 3rd down and then give yourself a chance to go for it on 4th. And instead, they're like, the Rams did this a few different times. We'll get to their game here in just a minute, where Stafford's just like throwing it deep on that last drive.
Yeah.
He's heaving it for the end zone. I'm like, dude, do you realize that this is a long kick and you've got a rookie kicker?
And it's cold and it's windy.
And you're in Chicago, which has a terrible field.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? So even for Stafford, who is not a young guy, he was getting overly aggressive in some of these spots. It was something that I think these quarterbacks, I hope they learn from this, because you lose these games as often as you like go and take it by the you-know-what. I thought way too many of these quarterbacks lost the game for their teams. All right, let's get to that Rams-Bears game after T-Bone gives us a thought.
And that's why I've said this before, and I'll bring up Mahomes. When you would play the Chiefs in the playoffs, what did I say you got to beat them? You got to play perfect football because they're not going to make the mistake that gives it to you. And defensively, they're always pretty much typically sound and saying, we think you're going to be overly aggressive. We'll give you that 5-yard route thinking you're not going to take it.
Rams versus the Bears. I would probably say this was my favorite game of the weekend. I thought it had a little bit of everything. The quarterbacks were both up and down, but some of the plays that they made, especially from Caleb Williams late, it's as high-level play as you could possibly ask out of a quarterback. The storylines were there. I just loved the scenery of the Chicago Bears in that stadium, snowing. The Rams, they had the sideline report where they're putting cayenne pepper inside of their socks to keep to what they believe, keep their feet warm, I guess.
Must be backed by science.
I guess.
I don't think that's a thing.
But just all of it, I thought it was great. And the game was fantastic, lived up to all of the hype. T-Bone, I'll start with you as the resident Rams fan. What was your biggest takeaway from this one over the weekend?
It's a good thing Caleb Williams got overly aggressive because Stafford did not have a good game. And I thought for sure if the Rams were going to win in the playoffs, I thought their defense would be leaky. I think the snow helped the effect that the Bears couldn't do as much offensively, same with the Rams. But, man, Stafford's not been good in either of the 2 playoff games so far this year. And they're getting by. And the big thing for him was, yes, he got overly aggressive. They were in field goal range, but he didn't make the big mistake like Caleb Williams did. And he didn't throw the big pick in overtime. So they were able to get bailed out by that because they didn't do anything on their first drive. My big takeaway from that game was it's a good thing the Rams caught the Bears early in their build under Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Because I think if this is a year from now, I think the Bears will win that football game.
That was my big takeaway. I mean, the Bears are going to be the most dangerous team in the NFC moving forward. I mean, Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, that mind paired together is going to be a dangerous thing moving forward. And all they need to do is uplift that defense a little bit more. Try and upgrade it in a couple of areas. And I mean, that is going to be the most dangerous team in the NFC because of how good that quarterback coach combo is.
The number of times, I'll just go ahead and throw the name out there. The number of times that I was watching over the last 2 weeks and said to myself, man, that's 2019 Mahomes. Where Mahomes would get into these games, they'd get down early. If you remember that 2019 run, the Chiefs' first Super Bowl appearance with Patrick Mahomes, they were down by double digits in every single playoff game, every single one of them, and they ultimately came back to win all of them. That's what Caleb Williams was doing. He was finding a way to will his team to victory and nearly did it again against the Rams. If they had win for 2, I think they might have won that game. Yeah. If they get it there, I think they win that game. But I'm with you guys. This team with Chicago, I think they are ripe for a hell of a run with Caleb Williams at the helm. I know that his completion percentage is down, and it's not something you're going to look at and be overly impressed by. It's just a little above 50%. That's part of the offense, though. They hunt explosives in this offense. They're jab, 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 haymaker, jab, jab, haymaker. And when they get those big plays, those explosives through the air, it is crushing to you defensively. I mean, it's chunk yardage. It's 20-yard dig routes. It's a 25-yard down the seam. It's Colston Loveland for 15 down the sideline. I mean, it's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. And I'm excited to see what comes next for them. But for right now, the Rams were able to come out victorious, and that felt very much like this team still has some of that championship pedigree in it. And they found a way to reach way down inside of them and win that one in a game where Puka Nacua didn't do a whole lot.
No.
And
Both
Devontae
wide
Adams
receivers
did a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
Adams has done nothing the 2 playoff games, really.
To be able to win that game when you get almost nothing out of your receivers, they looked slow on the outside in this game, in my opinion, and I think a lot of that was the footing. But when you have that and your defense, a decent portion of the game was just okay. Really impressive win by them. Going on the road, winning in that environment, I was highly impressed.
And I said this going into the playoffs. I think they were the team that was under the most pressure going into the playoffs. Well, maybe the answer should have been the Bills. They fired their coach today. But this might be their final run with Matthew Stafford. Who knows? And we're starting to see now, he's really slowed down for them. Maybe he comes back next year, plays very well, and I'm just off base on this. But they felt like the team to me that had to go on this kind of a run because it feels like it could be the last ride with Matthew Stafford.
I've seen a few people, and we got this from the text line from the 618. Final thoughts on this game before we get to the national championship preview for tonight. I've seen a few people critical of Ben Johnson going for it on fourth down early in the game, not taking the points. Guys, the same reason the Rams won is the same reason that the Bears were in that spot that they were. The Rams went for it on fourth down, and it was paid off by a touchdown. T-Bone, we were talking about this in our text thread. T-Bone didn't want them to go for it. When it was 4th and 1 from the Chicago 7-yard line, at the time, it's a tie game, 10-10. And there's like 8 minutes left, I think, in the fourth quarter. The Rams decide to go for it. They get it, and on the next play, they score a touchdown. It was a 4-point swing because they decided to go for it on fourth down there. So we can't celebrate it when it works and then criticize it when it doesn't. You've got to decide whether or not it was the right call based upon the process, not the results. And it was 4th and 1 from the Rams' 32-yard line. That's a 50-yard field goal in really difficult weather. I don't know that he makes that field goal. And I know the Bears were not good in 4th and short, 3rd and short situations in that game. I think it was the right call to go for it. It was 7-7 at the time. You go for it, hope that you can continue along in that drive and maybe also bleed out the clock with the rest of the first half there to prevent the Rams from scoring before halftime. I thought it was the right call. It didn't work for them, but both teams were aggressive on fourth down, and I thought it was the right way to operate in that game, given the circumstances.
I just love we're in a state of the NFL where coaches now are aggressive on fourth downs. God, it makes for good football.
T-Bone loves it. Coming up next, the national championship game is tonight. Can the Hoosiers pull this one off and finish the Cinderella story? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues fell to the Edmonton Oilers 5-0 last night. They are off today. They will be back in action tomorrow night, and we'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock when the Blues visit the Winnipeg Jets with Alex Ferrario. Then pucks up at 7 o'clock with Chris Gerber and Joey Vitale. Tonight here on 101 ESPN, the College Football National Championship game between Indiana and Miami. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 5:30 with kickoff at 6:30. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
National championship game is tonight. You'll be able to hear it, as T-Bone said, right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame coverage starting at 5:30. The fast lane off a little early today. Kickoff for this one at 6:30. Miami versus Indiana in Miami this evening. Alex, Indiana's a 7.5-point favorite in this game. I think all of us agree Indiana has been from start to finish the best team in the country this year. They have the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. Their defense has been amazing. They might be a better running team than a throwing team, despite the fact that they have the Heisman Trophy quarterback this year. Do you have any fear that Miami's going to win this one?
I don't. No. I think this one, I said it in commercial break, I think this is going to feel a lot like Seahawks and 49ers, where one team is just significantly better and it might be done by halftime. Maybe it's just the hatred towards Carson Beck. Maybe it's just the inept of looking at the Indiana schedule and just assuming that they're the best team in football. But watching what they've done in the college football playoffs thus far, I don't see how Miami scores points. And you could say the same thing about Ohio State and how they pulled that one off. But I don't think Miami is on the same level of dominance right now as what Curt Cignetti has that Indiana team. And frankly, I'll go off of coach and quarterback, and I think Mendoza and Cignetti are better than Cristobal and Beck.
I struggle with this one. I do think it's going to be close.
I do too. I think Miami covers.
I think so too. I would take Miami plus the points. I mean, you look at their run. They've had a hell of a path to get here.
Mm-hmm.
Miami was able to beat Texas A&M 10-3. Their defense,
actual road game, by the way,
a legit road game at one of the most difficult places in all of college football to win, in arguably the biggest game in program history for Texas A&M, to be able to play that game there in this format. But their defense completely shut them down, and their offense did just enough against a very good Texas A&M defense. And then they play Ohio State, who we all thought was potentially the second best team in the country this year. Unbelievable defense. Put up 24 against them. And the running game really got it done that day. And their defense was unbelievable to make Julian Sayin uncomfortable all day long. And then Ole Miss, that was an amazing game. They were able to get stuff going through the air in that one. I don't think they're going to have that same level of success with their passing game in this. I think it's going to come down to which team's able to run the football, because both of these defenses are amazing against the run. And it's going to be a difficult slog to get there.
Interesting.
But you have to stay committed to it. This is a game where I don't think either team's going to have a whole lot of success throwing the ball through the air. And it's going to be hard to run it, but it at least mitigates those huge mistakes that can cost you the game. So I think the winner of the line of scrimmage that's able to run the football will win this football game. I think it will be Indiana, but I'm not saying with my chest as much as I have been for most of their playoff push.
I'm not saying it with my chest as much because it's interesting. We almost see it in reverse.
Okay.
We've got the same idea of where Miami's going to keep it close, but I see this as both sides are going to be able to stop the run, so which quarterback's going to make the better plays.
That's fair.
And
Yep.
if that's the case, I'm leaning Mendoza, but if I think you're going to see this kind of just dogfight that's going to happen at the line of scrimmage, and I think that Miami's going to cover, I can see where, it's not even Mendoza's fault, but it takes one, deflected pass. It's picked off. Boom, Miami set up. They get the touchdown, and now they're in the driver's seat for the rest of the game, and we see what happens. It's why I'm not saying it with my chest, but I think it's going to be the opposite of the who's going to establish the run first. I think it's going to be they're not going to be able to establish the run. Which quarterback's going to make the bigger play? And that's where I give the advantage to Mendoza.
I don't see any scenario in which that is Carson Beck.
I agree. That's why, I'm leaning under on his passing. I think it's 200 yards tonight or something like that. I don't think he's going to be there, but I think Miami's defense will keep this close. I don't think, even if we're relying on Mendoza to win the football game, if you're an Indiana fan, I don't think Mendoza's going to go out there and pick them apart like Joe Burrow would in the national championship. I think it's going to be dink and dunk down the field, take advantage of the defense a little bit, and win this game 24-20, something like that.
Yeah, I think Indiana's defense is going to be the story of this football game, and I think it's going to be because they're going to pick apart Carson Beck. and then you're going to see a quarterback make a couple of plays. That's where it comes down to Mendoza versus Beck. But I think this is going to be the defensive narrative, and I think Indiana forces Miami to have to run the football, which isn't a good spot to be in.
If Miami gets down early, this could get ugly. Because I do think Carson Beck is the kind of quarterback that'll give you a couple of chances. And that's how it ends up getting out of hand for Miami. If they're able to keep this thing close, though, and they can run the ball a little bit, that's the path for Miami to be able to potentially keep this game close just long enough and then maybe pull away at the very end. I'm taking Indiana. I do think it's close. I think it is certainly within the 7.5 points that the spread is currently holding at. Coming up next, we'll hit the rewind here on 101 ESPN.
Hey, football fans, picture this. You bet on your favorite player to score the first touchdown in the game, but his teammate scores instead. If this happens, BetMGM wants to give you another chance at the end zone. With BetMGM's second chance promotion, you'll get your stake back if your first touchdown scorer scores second instead. That's right. Bet on any pro football player to score the first touchdown of the game. If you're right, you win. If your player scores second, you get your stake back in cash. With BetMGM's second chance offer, you have a chance to keep the fun going after the first player crosses the goal line. Try a first touchdown scorer wager with confidence today. BetMGM. Make it legendary. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. Missouri only. New and existing customer offer. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards paid back in unrestricted withdrawable funds. Please gamble responsibly.
Alongside Alex and T1, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
That 101 ESPN app, free to download, super easy to use. It's sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Blues off this evening, back in action tomorrow. Big news for them is that they have made a decision to let go their AHL head coach. It will now be Steve Ott taking over for the Springfield Thunderbirds. We gave some quick thoughts on that earlier today. Also talked about Jordan Binnington and his recent struggles as well. We had plenty of conversation about the NFL playoffs from this past weekend. We will move on tomorrow to more of the projecting forward, what this all means for the next round in the playoff, and talked a lot about the winter warm-up news that came out this weekend as well. Alex, to finish off today, we'll go ahead and preview tonight Miami versus Indiana national championship game. We all just gave our big picture thoughts on this one. What is your final prediction for this game, which people will hear right here on 101 ESPN beginning at 5:30? 27-14 Indiana. So you think they cover?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Indiana covers. I do think they win. I'm going with 24-20. I'm sticking with that.
20-16, Indiana comes out on top. Very close game, goes a little under on the point total, and Miami ultimately covers. I think this is a defensive battle. I think the first half, I think there's a decent chance that we see very few points, like a 6-3 halftime score. And then you go into the second half, and there are a few more. Like, there's a feeling out process that takes place first before we really get an idea of who's going to pull away. I feel like this game is a reminder of why we need to change the schedule. It is such an afterthought coming off of this weekend. There were so many huge games in the NFL, and then today you've got, McDermott getting fired. It's been pushed so far down the headlines. It's like the last thing people
played it on
are going to talk
Friday
about
before the NFL playoffs started.
Play it like 3 weeks ago.
Well, that too.
That too. But yeah, I'm with you. Especially for the great stories of the two teams that are there, right? Indiana, a team that should never be in this situation, going for a national championship. In Miami, the U is back. Come on, these are great stories, and yeah, you don't really know.
Is the U back?
We'll find out tonight on 101 ESPN with kickoff at 6:30 and pregame coverage at 5:30.
He's Tanner Hendrickson. That's Alex Ferrario. I'm Brandon Kiley. Again, if you guys missed anything from the show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page. You can also check it out on YouTube at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. The Fast Lane's next. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 11 a.m. here on